Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
Is this okay? Shiraishi looked at himself in the mirror. I was stunned. He actually turned back into an elementary school student. What's going on when Shiraishi woke up? He found that his house had changed, and even his body had reverted to that of an elementary school student. His soft, supple skin and short arms and legs were something he wasn't used to. That's incredible, just as Shiraishi was dumbfounded. A torrent of memories suddenly flooded into his mind. It was then that Shiraishi realized he had traveled through time. Not only did he change his clothes, but he also became Nobita Nobi's distant cousin under the automatic arrangement of the world's will. That's right, it's Nobita Nobi. And he now calls himself Nobi Shiraishi. The world of Doryan, the people of Beishi were stunned. In some ways, Doryan's world is more dangerous than Marvel's or DC's. Because in Marvel and DC, at least there are tall superheroes to keep things in check. As for Doryan, if the phone booth changes the world, then Shiraishi, the author, would certainly be within the scope of that change as well. He certainly didn't want his perception to be changed so easily. Besides this, there are countless crises, such as the Demon Realm, the Journey to the West invasion, and the Steel Legion invasion. Shiraishi had a bit of a headache. Putting everything else aside, he's in such a state that it's hard for him to even survive, let alone what will happen in the future. Fortunately, when the world's will memory was being instilled, Shiraishi knew that he would be picked up by the Nobi family today. He has become younger, but his parents will not come back to life in this world. The parents died in a car accident a few days ago. That's why being the parent of a time traveler is such a dangerous profession. Shiraishi shook his head helplessly and could only apologize to his deceased parents in his heart. Cuckoo, he is currently alone at home. That must be arranged by the will of the world. If it were a legitimate arrangement, who would let a primary school student live alone and wait until the afternoon to pick him up? Shiraishi's stomach rumbled, so he jumped off the stool, found the refrigerator and took out some bread to eat. This small body is really not very good, and Shiraishi is quite awkward about it. Ding. Host has replenished energy. Proficiency system activated. New player gift pack has been sent. Would you like to open it? A notification tone suddenly sounded in my ear. Baishi paused slightly, then tentatively asked, "System." No response. System, are you there? There has been no response yet. Just let me know if you're here. Still no response. Just when Baishi was about to think he was hallucinating, a habitual remark he made confirmed the system's authenticity. System, open the panel. Host, Shiraishi. Constitution * skill * chances to win a prize, 0. Almost all of them were zeros. But this still made Baishi's face light up with joy. System function. This system doesn't seem to be as intelligent as one might imagine. It only responds when a certain keyword is triggered. Much like an NPC in a game, the system has 2 functions. The first is skill proficiency. As long as the host works hard, he can gain the corresponding proficiency. The second is a lottery. The lottery can help the host obtain skills that he cannot learn on his own. Completing the tasks issued by the system can earn him lottery chances. The Nobi gift pack is the only chance to obtain physique. So please make the most of it, Shiraishi understood. No wonder it's called a proficiency system, however. How I should utilize this Nobi gift pack depends on luck. Doesn't it? Shiraishi patted his face excitedly, washed his hands and, too lazy to bother with any mystical practices, simply chose to open the Nobi gift pack. What a joke. Of course, the sooner you gain this ability to protect yourself, the better. Open the new player gift packs. Right in front of him, a gift box-like object appeared, then suddenly explode, spewing out fireworks, with a message in the middle. Ding, congratulations, host. You have unlocked the Nobi gift pack and obtained the little Superman little Jonathan Kent physique. Is he a superhuman Jonathan Kent Jr.? You don't need to know who he is, just that he is Superman's son. Known as Little Superman, and is half Kryptonian who can become stronger by basking in the sun. In an instant, several blue rays of light suddenly burst forth from that line of prompts, swirling around the white stone. Shiraishi felt as if he had returned to his mother's embrace. Feeling incredibly comfortable, he couldn't help but close his eyes, and unknowingly floated into the air. The blue light swirled around Baishi several times before suddenly entering his body and then slowly landing. Baishi was still feeling a bit lightheaded, as the feeling just now was just too comfortable. Host Shiraishi. Physical constitution, little Superman skill asterisk. Chances to win a prize, 0. Shiraishi clenched his fist. The changes were obvious. He now possessed at least the strength of an adult, and his eyesight and hearing were even stronger than those of an adult. This made him smile involuntarily. At least he was no longer a weak elementary school student. Shiraishi clenched his fist, the sudden surge of power causing him to slam his fist into the wooden table in front of him. Bang! The fragile wooden table was smashed to pieces with a single punch. Shiraishi's fist, however, was completely free of ash. An average adult certainly has the strength to knock over an ordinary wooden table with a single punch. However, it usually leads to a fracture or injury to one's hand. But Shiraishi wouldn't. This is the incredible physical strength of Kryptonians. Even if Shiraishi's strength is only that of a normal adult, his defensive capabilities far exceed that of an adult. Baishi looked at the messy ground and a look of delight on his face. It's so awesome that I can get stronger just by sunbathing. He walked to the window, feeling the sunlight streaming down his body, a comfort that seemed to come from the depths of his soul. The sunlight seemed to grant him everything. Little Bai, uncle is here to pick you up. Just as Shiraishi was enjoying the comfort brought to him by the sunlight, the sound of a car braking could be heard outside, along with the voice of Nobita's father, Nobita's son. Nabasuk, uncle, I'm coming right away. Shiraishi shouted, looking at the mess on the ground. I suddenly felt a headache coming on. I should have known better than to try it. But all they could do was pack these things together and toss them out the window into the yard. This house was left to Shiraishi by his parents in this life. It is said that it has been sold, and the money from the sale is temporarily kept by Nabasuk to be used as funds for raising Shiraishi. The next person to come will clean it up. Shiraishi glanced at his clothes, which could only be described as the most traditional attire for this time of year, and couldn't help but shake his head. From his 21st century perspective, this kind of clothing is incredibly outdated, luckily. She's cute, so she looks cute in anything she wears. Shiraishi was already quite good-looking. After acquiring the superhuman physique, her skin became even whiter and smoother, seemingly without the slightest flaw, making her even cuter. I'll buy clothes later. Shiraishi carried a large suitcase of luggage and walked out. Inside were most of his clothes and some personal items, including bed sheets. A green sedan was parked at the entrance. A chubby middle-aged man stood next to the green sedan. He seemed to be fiddling with something, calling out as he worked, Zayabai uncle has something to do. I'll be done in a minute, please wait a moment, this weather. Uncle, I'm out now at this moment. Nobita noticed that Shiraishi was already standing next to him. He was startled when he saw the huge suitcase on Shiraishi's shoulder. Shiraishi, why didn't you wait for your uncle? As he spoke, he quickly reached out to take the suitcase that Baishi was carrying, which was almost the size of his entire body. However, the moment he received it, Nabasuk realized he had been too hasty. It's so heavy. It's full of stuff. Caught off guard, the suitcase was slammed to the ground with a thud. Nobita wiped the sweat from his face with a cloth, somewhat embarrassed. Shiro, why did you bring so much stuff? Uncle has already prepared everything for you at home. It's all right, uncles, we've already brought them. With that, Shiraishi picked up the luggage from the ground again and walked towards the trunk. Nobita's eyes twitched violently. Zayobai is so strong. He quickly scrambled to the trunk, opened the door, and helped by she put the suitcase inside. Shiraishi had anticipated Nobisuke's reaction when he saw Nobisuke trying to take his luggage. His suitcases weren't actually that heavy. It is something that a properly trained adult could pick up. But Nobisuke is clearly not the kind of middle-aged man who has exercised. You can tell just by looking at his belly. If caught off guard, you might not be able to pick it up. Get in the car, Zayoabai. Seated in the driver's seat and the back seat respectively. They set sail as the car hummed under its own weight. Zayobai, you're really strong. Uncle almost couldn't lift that luggage just now. What do you mean, almost didn't pick it up? You mean you didn't pick it up at all? Shiraishi didn't want to expose Nobisuke's lie, so he just chimed in, I'm naturally strong. My parents say I'm super strong, oh I see. Zayoba, you haven't seen Daxing in a long time, have you? It's been a long time since you two last met, but that's okay. Brothers are brothers. You'll be familiar with each other again soon. Nobita didn't suspect Shiraishi was lying and changed the subject. Shiraishi was, of course, extremely familiar with Nobita Nobi. It could even be said that he is more familiar with Nobita than Nobita's brother. Nobita's sister Tamako. But I definitely can't say that out loud. Although if you say it out loud, it will only be taken as a child's unintentional remark. In this world, Shiraishi is only a few months older than Nobita, and the two had met a few times when they were children. However, because Shiraishi's parents and Nobita's family live too far apart, they may only get together once every 2 or 3 years. The last time was 3 years ago. Nobita was only a few years old, probably forgot by now. Nobita kept talking the whole way. They were all introducing Shiraishi to the family, trying to help him integrate into the family as quickly as possible. Besides Auntie and Nobita, we also have a robot at home named Doryan. Shiraishi was of course aware of these things, but he would always respond with a smile to Nobisuke. An afternoon has passed, and they have only traveled about 2/3 of the distance. Nobita randomly picked a convenience store on the road, and after quickly eating something with Shiraishi, he set off on his journey again, finally. Around 8 o'clock, the green sedan stopped in front of a house in Beishi that was both familiar and unfamiliar. Little Bay, come in. Your aunt and little brother have been waiting for you for a long time. What? Shiraishi stared blankly at the house until Nobita called him, at which point he came to his senses and went inside with Nobita. I'm a little nervous, snap, snap, snap. The house seemed to have been prepared. As soon as the door opened, fireworks exploded with a bang, and Nobita clapped his hands with a broad smile. Welcome Nobita Shiraishi to our family. White stone swept across the stone in a single glance. 4 people were standing in front of me. Nobita, and the round and chubby Doryan. Come on Zayabai, let me reintroduce you. Nobita extended his hand and said, this is my wife, your aunt. Hello Auntie, Shiraishi bowed very politely, saying, please take care of me in the future. It's all right, Shiro is so polite. I wish Nobita was like that too. Shiraishi's appearance is a huge plus for middle-aged people like them at this age. Nobita Mako cupped her face in her left hand, waved her right hand and said with a smile. Nobita could only give an awkward laugh. It's common knowledge that he's stupid. This is your younger brother, Nobita Nobi. Hello, Nobita Nobi, looking at Nobita in front of him. Shiraishi felt a surge of emotion and extended his hand with a smile. Nobita bowed awkwardly, his head bowed, and he kept turning around on the ground. Then he scratched his head, reached out and shook hands with Shiraishi, saying sheepishly, welcome my cousin Shiraishi. Haha, great, from now on, you two will be the closest of brothers, so you must get along well. Nobita and Nobita clapped their hands happily. What about me, beside him Doryan, with 2 blushes on his cheeks, looked a little shy but also very eager to try, and jumped a few times, oh and Doryan too. Nobita seemed to want to convey his meaning, so he squatted down and hugged Doryan's big head. This is the robot I told you about. Don't underestimate him just because he's a robot. He's a very important member of our family. Just like a real family member, Doryan, who was just eager to try, became shy and started poking his little hands after being told that. Saying in a weak voice, "Hello, Nobita's older brother." "Hello, Doryan." Shiraishi walked up to Doryan, reached out and shook Doryan's ball-shaped hand. Doryan chuckled. "All right, come on, you must be starving. I've prepared a huge feast for you tonight." Nobi Tamako greeted Shiraishi warmly. "Yay. Delicious food." Nabita and Doryan are still children at heart, and they can't resist the temptation of delicious food. They immediately ran towards the restaurant. But the two clumsy fellows collided and instantly fell to the ground. Seeing stars, Nabita Doryan upon seeing this. Nabita put his hands on his hips and said angrily, "What are you doing? Go wash ups." He glanced at Shiraishi discreetly. Upon realizing that Shiraishi was merely suppressing a laugh, he couldn't help but chuckle and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. They were terrified that Shiraishi would have a bad impression of them. Otherwise, the house would be in complete chaos. "Yes. I heard my father's angry voice." Nabita and Doryan immediately stood up, standing at attention like soldiers, and headed towards the bathroom. "All right, Zayaba, you should go wash up too." Nabita's conversation with Shiraishi was particularly gentle. Shiraishi nodded and went to the bathroom door with Nabasuke. As soon as they got to the bathroom, they heard Nabita and Doryan whispering to each other. "Nabita, Dad's acting really strange today." "Doryan, is that strange?" "Nabita, of course my dad isn't this manly at all normally." Doryan, that's true. You're usually kept very strict by your mom, aren't you?" Nabita, "Mom was so much gentler today." Upon hearing this, not only Nabita's brother, Nobi's sister couldn't hold back, but even Nabita's daughter Tamako was about to break down. The two parents, their faces flushed and filled with anger, went into the bathroom together. "Nabita, Doryan, I'm going to show you what a manly side your father can be." After a chaotic scene, Nabita and Tamako Nobi had just come out of the bathroom. Nabita was still trying to comfort the extremely angry Tamako. "Okay. Honey, don't be angry to understand." Shiraishi walked in and immediately saw two people who were truly seeing starslining against the sink. Puff Shiraishi had been holding back his laughter, but he couldn't hold it in any longer and burst into laughter. Hearing Shiraishi's laughter, Nabita and Doryan snapped out of their daze, coughing awkwardly as they complained, "Cousin, let me tell you, my mom and dad are acting completely differently today, but they won't let us say anything." Doryan suddenly sensed something was wrong and immediately grabbed Nabita's hand. Nabita, stop talking now." "What?" "Doryan, you won't allow me to." Nabita's voice suddenly stopped, and he looked behind Shiraishi with fear on his face. Shiraishi turned to look, and saw that it was Nabasuke checking on Shiraishi to see how his washing up was going. What? Nabita was initially a little angry when he heard Nabita talking badly about them again. But when he saw Shiraishi turn around and look at him, his expression immediately returned to a gentle smile. He said to Shiraishi, "Hurry up and wash up, or the food will get cold." "Okay, I understand." Shiraishi nodded. Nabita and Doryan breathed a sigh of relief after Nabita left. "Nabita, you're going too far. Even Dad is saying something." Doryan let out a slow sigh, then couldn't help but complain, "What?" "Doryan, you just said that too." Nabita Nobi said angrily, "Really, how could I forget?" Doryan whistled, his eyes darting around. "That wretched Doryan." Nabita angrily grabbed Doryan's head and kept rubbing and scratching it. Doryan's eyes wide burst into laughter, rolling around with Nabita's. "I was wrong, Nabita, I was wrong, I was really wrong, Nabita." All right, Nabita. Doryan, stop fooling around. If you keep this up, your uncle might really come in and show you what it means to be a man. Shiraishi timely pressed down on Nabita and Doryan's heads, preventing them from bumping into each other no matter how hard they tried. "Cousin, you're so strong." Nabita scratched his head. The spot where Shiraishi had pressed down was a little red. It wasn't that Shiraishi used too much force. It was mainly that while Nobita was holding Shiraishi down, he was still trying to move forward and beat up Doryan. HMPH, it's all your own doing. Doryan crossed his arms and said with dissatisfaction, "Hurry up and wash up so we can go eat, I'm starving, bye she." Fearing that the two little devils would start fighting again, quickly said okay, okay. Although Nobita and Doryan are mischievous, they are quite rational when it comes to these kinds of things. After washing up when I arrived at the restaurant, Nobi Tamako's food had already been served. Baishi took his seat at everyone's invitation, and the meal was enjoyed by both host and guests. The conversation also helped to reduce the invisible barrier between Baishi and the family. Nobita's daughter Tamako led the group to Shiraishi's room. "Shiraishi, this is where you'll be living from now on. It might feel a little cramped, but please treat this place like your own home, what? I wouldn't feel wronged." Nobita couldn't help but complains. "Isn't this clearly saying that my room is trash, However, Nobita only needed one look from Tamako Nobi to make him tremble and lower his head. Doryan couldn't help but chuckle, "All right, Shiro. You can stay here and get along well with Nobita." Before leaving, Nobita warned Nobita. "Don't mess around and corrupt Shiro, bang." As the door closed, Xinghu had been tense all along. Suddenly slumped to the ground and couldn't help but complain. What? What do you mean I'll corrupt my cousin Ziobai? That's hilarious. Mom is only doing this for your own good." Doryan patted Nobita on the shoulder, then looked at Shiraishi curiously and asked cousin, "Will you be going to the same school as Nobita?" "Of course." Shiraishi sat on the tatami mat and said, "Even with Doryan, I can't go that far to school, that's true." Doryan scratched his head. "Hey cousin, how are your grades at school?" Suddenly, Nobita seemed to take an interest, and curiously sat up cross-legged, placing his hands on his feet looking on with anticipation. "The results are just so-so." Shiraishi waved his hand modestly. "How much is average?" Nobita's eyes sparkled. He was eager to know Shiraishi's grades. Doryan, standing nearby, couldn't help but cover his forehead with his hand, looking quite helpless. No one else knows what Nobita is thinking. Doesn't Doryan know this if Shiraishi says it's good? Nobita definitely won't ask any more questions. But Shiraishi said it was just so-so, which made Nobita very curious. This reflects a child's competitive spirit and a sense of wishful thinking. Nobita believes that if another child in the family has poor grades, his mother will be too embarrassed to force him to write anymore. That's how kids are. They never think that they'll actually be forced to write together. And what if my cousin's grades are worse than mine? Wouldn't that mean I could teach my cousin? "Cousin, it's okay, don't be ashamed. My grades are also very bad, I'm at the bottom of the class." Nobita's eyes lit up as if they were sparkling with stars when he thought of this. In order to force Shiraishi to reveal his achievements, he even told her about his own. He only got full marks in 2 subjects. Shiraishi couldn't help but chuckle. "Young man, if that's how you are, then I have no choice but to say it out loud." Nobita couldn't help but open his mouth wide. In that instant, his eyes lost their light and he became completely dazed. You should know that elementary schools in Japan only have 2 subjects for exams: Japanese language and mathematics. What? He originally thought his cousin's grades were just average. Puff. Doryan tried to suppress his laughter, but couldn't help burst out laughing once he did. He couldn't hold it in any longer and started rolling around on the ground, laughing hysterically. Big hero, you. Ha ha ha, you're simply humiliating yourself, Doryan." Nobita's face suddenly turned red, and he screamed in utter shame. He dared not and could not vent his anger on Shiraishi, so he could only pounce on Doryan again. "Nobita, I was wrong." The two of them rolled around in a ball on the ground for a while before collapsing. Panting heavily, huffs, Nobita. Panting heavily complained, "Cousin, you call this average? You're clearly a super genius. You're just like Dekasugi in our class." "Yes, cousin. Doryan nodded in agreement and said, "That's good. It's really a good thing to have a good older cousin who's good at studying to keep an eye on Nobita. Cousin, you'd better keep an eye on Nobita from now on." "No problem, after all I am Nobita's cousin. And I have an inescapable duty in this regard." Shiraishi crossed his arms and nodded solemnly. Damn it. Nobita felt a sudden darkness before his eyes, and the future seemed bleak and hopeless. My mom is already very strict, now we have another cousin. What should I do, however? Children's tempers come and go quickly, and Nobita soon started asking about Shiraishi's hometown. In reality, Shiraishi's hometown is just like this. Nothing different from here, just an ordinary small town. To make the story more interesting, Baishi incorporated many ancient allusions that he made up himself. Nobita and Doryan became completely engrossed in listening. It wasn't until Nobi Tamako called for her to go to sleep that the blanket was taken out and spread on the floor. Just like Nobita said, the blankets were all prepared carefully and were all brand new. Shiraishi didn't need to bring any luggage at all, cousin. You have to keep telling us these stories tomorrow. Doryan turned off the lights and went to sleep, closing the door to his wardrobe. Before going to sleep, Nobita mumbled something in a daze. A smile appeared on Shiraishi's face. He hummed softly and then fell into a deep sleep. This was the deepest and safest night's sleep he had had since entering the workforce. He knew that in the future would be many more nights like this. The next morning, Shiraishi looked helplessly at Nobita, who was still lying in bed and couldn't get up, and then glanced helplessly at Doryan. Doryan could only shrug and say, "I can't do anything about it. Let's go down first, Doryan." "Okay, cousin Zayabai." After Shiraishi and Doryan finished washing up and came to the kitchen, Nobita still hadn't gotten up. Nobi Tamego is heating milk, frying eggs, and making bread. Upon seeing the two, he immediately laughed and said, "As expected of Zayabai, you don't even need to be called. Unlike Dakshung, by the way, where's Dakshung?" "Dakshung, he's still sleeping. I can't wake him up no matter what I do." Shiraishi and Doryan sat at the dining table. Doryan picked up a piece of bread and started eating it, while Shiraishi helplessly answered Nobita's question. "That guy Nobita, normally it's fine. Nobi Tamako was already used to it, but what about now? Without comparison, there is no harm done." Enraged, Nobi Tamako stormed upstairs. Shiraishi and Doryan exchanged a glance, and could only pray for Nobita in their hearts. "Mom, I'll get up right away. I thought that as long as I had a premonition it would be fine." But when they heard that sound, Shiraishi and Doryan couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Poor Nobita. I know how terrifying Aunt Tamako can be when she's angry. Having watched the anime, I told you to get up a long time ago. But I can't help you if you don't seize the opportunity." As Nobita's screams rang out, a new day began for the Nobita family. Dakshung. After breakfast, take your little white cousin to get to know the neighborhood and introduce him to some new friends. He's family now, just like you, no problem. I just arranged to meet Shizuka and the others at the open space today. Kusanoyu can come with me. He went out with Shiraishi and Doryan, walking ahead. Nobita Nobi was incredibly proud and arrogant. I'd never seen him so smug before. "Cousin, I know a lot of friends around here. Even the ringleader is my friend. I'll introduce you to them today, so you won't get bullied in the future. If you do get bullied, just come to me." Nobita patted his chest and made a boastful promise to Shiraishi. Doryan remained completely unfazed, even feeling a slight urge to laugh. He had long since seen through Nobita's personality. Shiraishi almost burst out laughing. "Who's the ringleader of the kids around here? It's Giant. Your friend is indeed your friend. But are you sure you're not the one being bullied?" "All right, we're here." Nobita Nobi spread his arms wide and said excitedly, "Cousin, look, thighs is the open space where we usually play together." His exaggerated performance, it immediately attracted the attention of several children in the open space, who couldn't help but turn their gaze over. Shiraishi happened to be looking in that direction when their eyes met. Tall and strong fat tiger, the skinny little Fukuo, and Shizuka petite but a beauty in the making. Nobita, who is this, in front of strangers? Jian wouldn't act so strangely, or rather. Jian is usually quite normal. He came over and put his arm around Nobita's shoulder. Asking curiously, he's my cousin. Nobita seemed very uncomfortable with Jian's behavior. And his discomfort was evident on his face. No wonder he got beaten up. His attempt to be friendly and affectionate was met with such disdain. Many normal people would find it unbearable, let alone Jian. Let me introduce you all, his name is Nobi Shiraishi. And he'll be living at my house from now on. Cousin, this is Jian, this is Sunio, and this is Shizuka. We are friends and classmates. Ignoring Nobita's reaction, Jian ran over to Shiraishi, hooked his arm around Shiraishi's shoulder, and laughed heartily. So you're Nobita's cousin. From now on, you're my cousin, Jian's cousin Shiraishi. If anyone in this area dares to bully you, just tell me. I'll beat them to a pulp, knowing Jian's personality. Shiraishi wasn't too bothered, instead smiled and said, Okay, I'll have to trouble you to look after me from now on. Thank you, it's okay. Fat Tiger scratched his head and then burst into laughter. Seemingly enjoying the feeling of being thanked, Shizuka, who was standing next to him, also greeted Shiraishi. Compared to Jian and Sunio, Shizuka seems to be able to feel Shiraishi's charm more. He's so handsome at such a young age. And just one look at him makes people blush and their hearts race. Only Sunio seemed to have a bad impression of Shiraishi, constantly looking at him with a scrutinizing gaze. Everyone sat down by the building pipes in the open space. Because Shiraishi was a new member, everyone's conversation revolved around him. For example, they might ask how old you are, where you're from, what you like, and what your hobbies are. Fat Tiger acted perfectly normal in front of the new friends, even giving off the air of a senior figure in the group. Because it involved his cousin, Nabita was also very active. Although Shizuka is a lady, she will occasionally chime in and has a strong presence. Not to mention Doryan, only Sunio carrying a backpack, remained silent throughout. Well, not exactly silent, but he did say a few words, trying to shift the topic away from Shiraishi. But no one paid him any attention. You all. Zairofu clenched his fists, watching them chatting so enthusiastically. He felt increasingly aggrieved, and finally couldn't help but shout, You guys are going too far. Then to everyone's bewilderment, she ran away crying. What's wrong with Zairofu? Shizuka asked, puzzled. I don't know what's wrong with this kid all of a sudden. Fat Tiger scratched his head, his mind filled with doubt. That guy Zairofu must feel that his cousin has stolen his thunder. So he's unhappy about it, Nobita snorted dismissively. It has to be said that his intuition is sometimes quite accurate. Sunio had already returned home, took out his new remote control car from his backpack, and started crying. Zairofu had prepared this brand new remote-controlled car, ready to show off, but unexpectedly, his limelight was stolen. While everyone was talking about Shiraishi, Sunio kept talking from the side, trying to get everyone's attention to be focused on him. But nothing worked then. She cried because she felt wronged. Children are children after all. Zairofu doesn't even think about it. Everyone was chatting with Shiraishi. You're the only one implying that a certain new remote-controlled car has just been released for sale. They didn't ignore you. They're already being very kind by giving you a perfunctory response. It's all that Shiraishi's fault. No. It's all Nobita's fault. He had to bring a cousin here to oppose me. That's right, it's all Nobita's fault. It's all Nobita's fault, Nobita. Zairofu, do you want to hear what you're saying right now? The others on the other side also deduced from the clues they had just gathered that Zairofu had run away in frustration. Fat Tiger said speechlessly, That Sunio is really too stingy. A remote control car is nothing compared to a new friend. Don't you think, cousin Shiraishi? Shiraishi nodded in agreement. How could a remote-controlled car compare to the friendship forged in elementary school? Of course, he also knew that Sunio actually valued friendship more. But he just didn't show it so obviously. We're all elementary school students. Who could possibly notice? We just thought he was vain. Zailafu is going too far. He's not giving Beishi any face at all, even Shizuka. A lady who usually doesn't like to lose her temper. Got a little angry, not to mention Nobita and Doryan, who were already furious. It's just a broken remote-controlled car. How can it compare to little white cousin? It's hilarious. Nobita huffed then looked at Doryan. You can definitely pull out something more fun and cooler than that remote control car anytime. Right, of course, under everyone's gaze. Doryan coughed lightly, then proudly reached into his four-dimensional magic pocket. Of course. Doryan rummaged through his four-dimensional magic pocket and pulled out a huge gadget, slamming it down on the ground with a thudsing tada. A remote-controlled simulation car. Wow, what's this? Doryan, Giant, and Nobita's eyes lit up instantly, and they lingered near the remote-controlled simulator. The composition of this instrument is quite simple. The front half is covered by a huge screen, while the middle part is shaped like a car. When Shiraishi saw this prop, he couldn't help but think to himself, isn't this one of those racing simulators from the arcade in my past life? He looked at it a few more times and became even more certain. That should be right, tada. There's also a remote-controlled car. Doryan took out a remote-controlled car from his magic pocket and placed it on the ground, explaining as he did so, this is a remote-controlled simulation car. As long as you sit on it, you can control the car's movements. Let me show you with that. Doryan sat in the remote-controlled simulator car and started the engine. Buzz! The air blast from that remote-controlled car looked so realistic. It didn't feel like a remote-controlled car at all. The real vibrations even reached the prop vehicle. Doryan stepped on the gas and started racing in the open space. Woohoo with H drift. Most of the vibrations and changes during the drift are transmitted to Doryan through the prop car he's sitting on. After demonstrating for a while, Doryan finished with a cool drift jump off the prop car. Patted Itan said with a proud smile, how was that? Cousin Shiraishi, cool. Shiraishi was very respectful to Doryan. He was even itching to try his hand at it. Not to mention Giant and Nobita. Even Shizuka was somewhat eager to try, just kidding. Isn't this way cooler than any remote-controlled car? The real sensory experience. It's just like driving a real car. I'll go first, he ignored Fat Tiger's murderous glare. Nobita Nobi jumped onto the car seat and started speeding like crazy. This experience Yuhich felt just like driving a real car. Drove him wild with excitement. And he kept letting out strange whistling noises. Doryan stood to the side, watching Nobita with a maternal smile. Where is he? Nobita played for a while before Giant pulled him down. My turn, Nobita, hahaha, watch my super drift. Speeding whoosh under Giant's control. The remote-controlled car travels through bushes and puddles, making it look like it's traversing a jungle, with occasional glimpses of giant insects. The stimulating sensation of being pushed back made Fat Tiger roar with excitement. Shiraishi was really itching to try it himself. Although it looks similar to driving, the actual experience is obviously many times more fun than driving. First of all, there's no need to worry about crashing. Driving a tiny remote-controlled car is like being in a miniature world. The combination of adventure and racing is incredibly fun. I kind of want to play, perhaps because his body has shrunk. Shiraishi's childlike innocence, which he had long lost, has gradually returned, however. Since Giant had just sat down, Shiraishi couldn't very well pull him off, however. Shiraishi seems to have overestimated Giant's usual strength. Shizuka looked on with longing. Nobita and Doryan sat to the side watching Giant. Time passed slowly. Everyone went from being excited and eager to continue playing to sitting listlessly on the pipes. It's my turn now, Shiraishi slowly stood up from the pipe. Preparing to walk to Giant's side, cousin wait. He's Fat Tiger. Nobita's pupils suddenly contracted, and he hurriedly tried to grab Shiraishi. Even Doryan tried to persuade Shiraishi-san. It's Akio can play with him when we get home. No. Shiraishi shook his head decisively as friends. No one can directly take away a toy's playtime, not even Giant. And Shizuka is waiting right next to us. While he watched helplessly as Giant continued to play this game. I knew this guy was going to act up again. They just like to take over everything they like. Shizuka looked at Shiraishi with emotion. She didn't actually like the feeling of racing that much. But even she wanted to experience such a toy. But who knew that once Fat Tiger sat there, it would be noon? I'm a little disappointed. I originally wanted Nobita, Doryan, and Giant to say it. But judging from the looks of it, there's no way they'd say it. Upon hearing that Shiraishi had stood up for her, Shizuka was immediately moved, but this is Giant. Nobita Nobi wanted to say anything more. But Doryan understood what Shiraishi meant. He even stopped Nobita with his little hand, looking at Shiraishi with a resolute expression. Like a hero going forth to his death, yes. Cousin Shiraishi, you're right. I understand what you mean. This situation really can't happen. Go ahead, Doryan support you, Doryan. Nobita was stunned. How could Doryan be fooling around with his cousin? That's Giant. But Doryan's gaze remained steadfast as he looked at Shiraishi. It's been decided if Giant dares to make a move. He will definitely step in to help Shiraishi, Shiraishi nodded, then said with a smile. It might not necessarily happen the way you're thinking. With that, Shiraishi walked directly to Giant's side. Looked at him and said calmly, Giant, it's my turn also. You've been playing for a long time this round. So don't play next round, wait for the third round. What are you doing, Shiraishi? Disturbed by Shiraishi. Giant's remote-controlled car crashed into the wall in front of him with a bang. The realistic feeling made Giant's head buzz. He turned his head and glared fiercely at Shiraishi. Giant, do you know how annoying your behavior is? Shiraishi didn't care about Giant's gaze, after all. He was an adult in his previous life and wouldn't be frightened by a child. Hey, what are you saying? Fat Tiger grabbed Shiraishi's left arm with his right hand, seemingly about to attack. Doryan in the back has already put his hand into the four-dimensional magic pocket. As for Nobita, although he's a coward, he's already prepared to rush up and fight Giant. Although he said he was scared, Nobita actually sided with Shiraishi and thought Shiraishi was right. Besides, he's my cousin. How could I let my cousin be bullied by Fat Tiger on his very first day here? Nobita's eyes gradually hardened as he grabbed Doryan's hand, ready to charge at any moment. Shizuka crossed her arms and looked at Shiraishi with great concern, wanting to tell him to let it go and that she could play later. Shiraishi, cousin. Shiraishi noticed their commotion and was very pleased. At least there wasn't a situation where I'm standing up for you, and you don't dare to utter a word. It's okay, you don't need to come up. I want to reason with Fat Tiger. Shiraishi first extended his right hand to stop them from making their move, and then gently grabbed the fat hand that Giant was holding on his right arm. With a light but incredibly stable force, they forcefully pried open Fat Tiger's hand. Is he afraid of Giant? Joke. Even though Giant is a child, he is no stronger than an adult. Moreover, after a day in the sun, his strength had increased, and he could easily handle Fat Tiger like a little chick. Hey Shiraishi, are you provoking me? Fat Tiger watched helplessly as his hands were pried open. And he was already furious, his face turned red. And he rolled up his sleeves wanting to beat up Shiraishi. He's been acting arrogantly in this area for a long time. He has never encountered anyone who dares to defy him. Now that one has suddenly appeared. Fat Tiger feels that his authority as the leader of the children has been offended. Provocation? No, it isn't. Shiraishi spread his hands innocently and said, I just wanted to reason with you. He took a small step forward, then patted Fat Tiger's shoulder a few times, before gently pressing down on it. A red glint flashed in his eyes. What I just said, Fat Tiger, isn't it right? Shouldn't it be my turn? Fat Tiger really wanted to say no, but he was suddenly surprised to find that he could no longer move the spot whereby she was holding him down. A chill ran up his head and he suddenly shuddered, looking at Baishi with fear in his eyes. Besides, you played for a long time just now. which is equivalent to playing the second round. It's normal to wait until the third round to play. Do you think what I said makes sense, Fat Tiger? Shiraishi gently moved his head closer to Giant. Meeting his gaze, the tone of voice was normal. But Giant felt that the voice was deafening. He tried to run away but couldn't, and was held tightly by Shiraishi. Yes, yes. You're right, Fat Tiger was momentarily stunned. Shiraishi smiled and patted Giant's shoulder with satisfaction. All right, Giant, you can sit down over there. Okay. Under the incredulous gazes of his friends, Fat Tiger walked listlessly to the side of the pipe and sat down. His eyes glazed over his clothes soaked with cold sweat. Yay, cousins! Nobita watched this scene with great excitement and rushed over to hug Shiraishi. Cousin, you're amazing. Doryan looked at Shiraishi with admiration. They're cousins, but he's so much better than Nobita. Shizuka nodded in agreement. Shiraishi's performance just now was exactly what she wanted. Without resorting to violence, he politely ushered Giant aside with words, "What?" Doryan, Nobita said with dissatisfaction from now on. I can reason with Giant just like my cousin. If you try to reason with Giant like I do, Giant will definitely punch you back. Shiraishi burst out laughing again like a little adult. Pushed Nobita away, feeling a bit suffocated by the boy's hug. It wasn't as calm as it seemed just now. If little Fatty Tiger really dares to make a move, the arm that's grabbing Fatty Tiger's shoulder will just give him an over-the-shoulder throw. Sometimes you have to discipline a naughty kid. Reason. For Giant, fists are the reason. If your fists aren't strong enough, Giant will definitely show you what the iron fist of the king of kids is all about. Come on, Shizuka. You go up, and Shizuka's experience was more refined compared to Giant or even Nobita. It's like a wealthy lady strolling through the streets. After she had tried it for a while, it was Shiraishi's turn. Shiraishi was so itchy to get his hands on it that he immediately started racing. The experience is completely different from driving yourself. Even the scenery outside the window is different. When the first round ended and they started the second round, before the third round began, the sun was already high in the sky at noon, and the sunlight was shining on the earth. It's time to go home. After saying goodbye, everyone went home to their own mothers. And Fat Tiger didn't even get to play the third round. Back home, I ate my first lunch. Nobita urged Tamako to do her homework. It's summer vacation now, and the start of school is just around the corner. But Nobita hasn't even started his homework yet. Zaiabai, I'm entrusting Dakshing's homework to you. Please take a look and keep an eye on him. Nobita Tamako spoke earnestly to Shiraishi, then glared at Nobita beside her. Nobi day, you just can't laugh. Shiraishi nodded and smiled. Okay, Aunt Tamako. Thank you so much, Zaiabai. What would you like to eat? Auntie will make it for you tonight. Nobi Tamako was overjoyed. She heard it from her husband. Shiraishi was smart from a young age, and his grades were almost always perfect 100s. She thought it would be hard for Nobita not to become smarter if he played with someone like that. Thank you, Auntie. I don't have any particular favorites. But I don't have any dietary restrictions either, and so. Shiraishi led Nobita and Doryan back to their room. Ugh. I'm so tired, I'm so sleepy. As soon as he got back to his room, Nobita rolled on the floor. Yawned and was about to take a nap. Hey Nobita, get up and do your summer homework. Doryan sighed. He was already used to Nobita's attitude, but he still couldn't help but urge him on. Doryan, I'll do my homework after I wake up. It looked like Nobita was really about to fall asleep. Shiraishi simply lifted Nobita up with one hand and said with a smile, Hey Nobita, I just promised Aunt Tamako that I would teach you how to do your homework. Zanota. Nobita cried out in agony, Cousin, please let me rest. I'm so tired. That won't do. Get up and do your homework. I'll teach you what you don't understand. Shiraishi doesn't give Nobita any face at all. This kid is the type who will take an inch and then a mile. If he really goes to sleep, he'll definitely find another excuse when he wakes up. Nobita Nobi sat down at the desk whimpering. Well done, Cousin Zaiabai. Doryan winked quietly and gave Shiraishi a thumbs up. Of course. Shiraishi responded with a wink and a thumbs up. Cousin, how do you do this problem? Before Shiraishi could even catch his breath, Nobita was already completely confused. Shiraishi looked at it and almost fainted. Damn it, it was the first question. Nobita really is an ignorant fool. Come on, I'll teach you. The question is like this. It's just the simplest addition and subtraction. Shiraishi believed he could still teach Nobita. However, he seemed to have overestimated himself. He talked about one question for a full half hour, until his mouth was numb. But Duxing still only half understood suddenly. Oh. I see, then the answer to this question should be. Nobita filled in the answer and Shiraishi glanced at it. Then breathed a long sigh of relief. Whether you were confused or actually understood, at least you got it right. Shiraishi looked at Doryan with teary eyes, finally understanding how Nobita's family and Mr. Nobita felt in his past life. He thought that even if Nobita was stupid, how stupid could he be? Result, Doryan. Cousin Zayabai Doryan, cousin Zayabai Doryan. With tears in his eyes gazed deeply into Shiraishi's eyes. He felt his scalp tingle the whole time he watched it. It's not just because I pity Shiraishi. I also pity my past self. Nobita finally got the first question right. Shiraishi hugged Doryan, showing they were in the same boat. Only Nobita is unaware of what has happened that has made Shiraishi and Doryan so fond of each other. Ding host has received a skilled tutorial. Host Shiraishi. Physical Constitution, Little Superman. Skill Beginner Teaching 1/100 chances to win a prize, 0. Here comes the skill. Shiraishi's grip on Doryan tightened suddenly, and his eyes lit up just as the system said. As long as I do a certain thing I can acquire a certain skill. Doryan breathless from the hug. His face flushed patted Shiraishi's hand little. Cousin Shiraishi, sorry Doryan. Shiraishi quickly let go of his hand. It's okay, it's okay. Doryan took a few deep breaths. I didn't realize you were so strong, cousin Zayabai. Born with superhuman strength. Just born with superhuman strength. Shiraishi waved his hand modestly, then turned his gaze to Nobita at this moment in his eyes. Nobita is a treasure trove of experience, waiting for him to explore. Nobita had no idea what Shiraishi was thinking, but he trembled slightly. Something felt off. Experience it first, over the next 2 hours. Shiraishi has been teaching Nobita all along. Ding. Use the teaching skill proficiency +1 ding. Use the teaching skill proficiency +1 ding. Use the teaching skill proficiency +1 a ding. Use the teaching skill proficiency +1. After acquiring teaching skills, even with only basic teaching skills, Shiraishi's teaching ability is comparable to that of an average teacher. This is better than before, after all. Although Shiraishi had a knack for solving 4th-grade math problems, his teaching methods weren't exactly smooth. Now teaching Nobita is even smoother. Shiraishi completely treated Nobita as a training tool, and felt very happy watching his proficiency level keep increasing. As a result, Nobita complained bitterly, however. Shiraishi acquired teaching skills and now had the demeanor of a seasoned teacher. Whenever he saw Nobita slacking off, he would immediately take control of him. This made Duxing only dare to complain, but not actually desert his post. Doryan sat to one side with his arms crossed, nodding with great satisfaction. My cousin truly lives up to his reputation. Seeing Nobita working so hard, I'm so touched, sob sob sob. Just then footsteps sounded. It was Nobi Tamako who brought up the snacks. Today's snacks are 6 Dorya Kitwo for each person, plus 3 glasses of juice, big. Nobi Tamako opened the door and was about to call for help, but Doryan raised his finger and shushed her. Mom, Nobita is working hard. Doryan tiptoed to the door, picked up the tray of snacks and said, keep your voice down. Don't disturb Nobita and cousin Shiraishi, okay? Nobita's daughter Tamako was stunned for a moment when she saw this, then nodded excitedly in a low-voiced Doryan. Remember to call them for snacks after they're done. Especially Shiro, okay, I understand. Doryan nodded vigorously, leave it to me, Mom. Then I won't bother you any longer. Nobi Tamako's footsteps as she went downstairs were much lighter, showing that she was genuinely happy. Having Shiraishi watching over Nabita in the house was simply wonderful for her. My husband made the absolutely right decision to let Xiaobai stay with us. Doryan was also very happy about Shiraishi's arrival. With a happy smile, his eyes narrowed as he looked at Nabita, who was making unprecedented efforts, and picked up a dorayaki to eat, feeling moved as he ate. Just as Shiraishi was using Nabita as an experience booster, constantly grinding for experience points. Jian then found Sunio and met up with him at Sunio's house. This morning, Jian was indeed a little scared by Shiraishi. But after realizing what had happened, Fat Tiger immediately turned red with anger. The fact that he was so obedient to Nabita Doryan and Shizuka was a disgrace to him, that actually scared me. How shameful, how can I be a leader of children in the future? That Shiraishi is absolutely despicable. Fat Tiger said fiercely, brandishing his fists. I'm going to find a chance to beat him up. Jian, it seems we think the same thing. Sunio chuckled slyly, then said with great dissatisfaction. However, besides Shiraishi, that Nabita is also extremely despicable. Relying on his cousin, he dares to be so arrogant. That's right, Fat Tiger nodded solemnly and said. That Nobita guy just sided with his cousin against me. He clearly doesn't respect me, he has to be taught a lesson. Let's not delay, Jian. Let's go ask Shiraishi and Nobita to meet up. Let's not ask Doryan to meet up, Sunio, looking like a cunning strategist, stroked his chin and grinned mischievously, saying, that stinky robot Doryan has too many weird gadgets. If we call him over, who knows what he might pull out. You're right, Doryan has too many strange gadgets. We absolutely can't let him know about them. Jian nodded in agreement, mainly because he usually didn't use his brain and just went along with whatever Sunio said. Wait for me, Jian. I need to think of a way to lure Shiraishi and Nabita out. It's Aku have plenty of snacks at home anyway. I'll have a few more. Sunio watched as Jian devoured his food, an ellipsis appearing on his forehead as he speechlessly covered it. Fine, fine, let Fat Tiger eat it if he wants. On the other side, at this moment it is already 2:30 p.m. Since finishing lunch at 11:45. Shiraishi and Nabita remained seated at the desk, ding. Use the teaching skill proficiency +1 ding. Use the teaching skill proficiency +1 ding. Use the teaching skill proficiency +1. Shiraishi became more and more enthusiastic as he taught, and Nabita gradually became a little more absorbed in it. Although it's only a small step, it still represents a qualitative improvement. Okay, let's take a break. Shiraishi glanced at the time, it was already 2:30. He'd been studying for over 2 hours, almost 3 hours. It was time for Nabita to rest, after all. You can't let an experienced pet die while you're raising it. Right, yeah, I heard that I could finally rest. Nabita instantly perked up, spreading his arms wide and laughing heartily. It's finally over, that was awesome. It's finally over. God knows how much he suffered during those 2 hours. Clap, clap, clap. Doryan smiled like an ant and clapped his hands, saying, Congratulations, Nabita, congratulations, Nabita. You've broken the record for the longest study session today. Oh yes. No, by day you double-handed forehand shoulder technique. Of course. By she pointed to the test paper on the table and said, Look at what you've accomplished in these 2.5 hours. Nabita Nobi glanced over, seeing the densely packed answers on that test paper. I was immediately stunned. Wow, did I do all of this? Of course. If you didn't finish it, did you think I would have done it? Baishi crossed his arms and laughed. I'd give you 99 points for your performance in these 2.5 hours. I'm deducting 1 point so you won't get arrogant. Ha 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 ha, Nabita was stunned for a moment, then put his hands on his hips, a sense of accomplishment welling up inside him. I really did all of this, all right, Nabita. Stop standing there, come and eat something. The word heart after Doryan was left unsaid, and the conversation abruptly stopped. He suddenly realized that while watching Nobita do his homework and eat, he had unknowingly eaten 4 dorayaki. And now there were only 2 left. Nobita, oblivious to the seriousness of the situation, was still excitedly shouting, "Yay, time for snacks. The sweetest treats are the ones you get after all that hard work. Nobita, you have to try them." Shiraishi nodded in agreement, etc. Nobita suddenly noticed that only 2 dorayaki remained on the dessert tray. His gaze then fell on Doryan, who was awkwardly scratching his head and grinning, and his face flushed crimson. "Doryan, you ate all my dorayaki." Screaming, Nobita lunged at Doryan. "Doryan, do you know how much happiness I'll lose by following what my cousin Shiraishi said? Happiness, that's such an important thing." After making a fuss for a while, Duxing realized that since he had already eaten, there was no point in making a fuss now, so he could only squat to the side and sulk. Doryan knew he was in the wrong and didn't know what to say from beginning to end. "I'm sorry, Nobita, I was wrong. I ate it by accident just now. It really was an accident." Nobita ignored Doryan's, picked up the snack tray and handed it to Shiraishi. "Cousin Shiraishi, you can have these 2 dorayaki." "So good." Shiraishi watched it from beginning to end and questioned it. "Of course," Nobita nodded without hesitation and said, "Although I wrote all these questions myself, I know that you put in just as much effort as I did. Maybe even more so. This snack, you can have it." As he spoke, Nobita handed over a little more of the snack tray, then suddenly closed his eyes and turned his head away. "This kid." Shiraishi looked at the dorayaki in front of him, feeling both amused and exasperated. "However, my opinion of Nobita has changed somewhat. At least he seems timid, but he is actually quite clear about many things in his heart." Seeing this, Doryan felt even more guilty. "Nobita, cousin Shiraishi, wait a minute." Doryan's short arms rummaged through his 4-dimensional magic pocket and finally pulled out a bottle of potion. "Ta-da, double the potion, etc." Looking at the doubled potion, Shiraishi suddenly had a bad feeling. "Doryan, what is this?" Nobita's anger came quickly and went quickly after all. "This is Doryan, hehe. I accidentally ate your dorayaki just now, I'm so sorry." Doryan first scratched his head and apologized, then continued, "I suddenly remembered this gadget. If you drip a drop of the potion on a dorayaki, after 5 minutes the dorayaki will turn into 2. And after another 5 minutes the 2 will turn into 4. "Very good." Nobita's eyes suddenly lit up. "Hurry up and put the IV drip on." "Stop." Shiraishi quickly called for a halt. "Goodness, it was exactly what I expected. Double the dose of medicine, also known as double the solution. It is the most inconspicuous yet most dangerous item in Doryan. Apply the multiplier to any item, and it will double in size after 5 minutes. It won't disappear unless you ate it." 5 minutes later, it went from 1 to 2. 5 minutes later, the number increased from 2 to 4. 5 minutes later, the number increased from 4 to 8. Does that sound like very little? But as time goes by, the number will increase from 8 to 16, from 16 to 32, from 32 to 64. From 64 to 128, in my past life. Many people calculated that the Earth is 510 billion square meters. If a loaf of bread is 0.01 square meters, it would only take 4 hours and 40 minutes to cover the entire Earth. It will get even more outrageous later on. It could even annihilate the entire universe in less than a day. Of course, annihilating the universe is impossible, and some experts have refuted this claim first. The bread will multiply as described above, rapidly expanding in volume to become a huge aggregate of bread, called a bread ball. When the dough expands to a certain extent, the speed at the edge of the dough approaches the speed of light. Due to relativistic effects, the mass of the edge of the dough tends towards infinity. The edge of the dough can only propagate at the speed of light, thus limiting the increase in the dough's volume as the quality index of the dough increases. But the volume of the dough can only increase gradually. The density of the dough will become greater and greater. And the pressure and temperature at the center will also increase accordingly. When the temperature and pressure at the core ignite a thermonuclear reaction, the dough becomes a sterol, the bread ceases to exist. And proliferation stops in a later theatrical version. The chestnut bread that had been doubly infused with the potion in the original storyline had formed a nebula. Although it cannot fill a universe. However, flooding the Earth would be an easy thing to do. Shiraishi isn't ready to escape Earth yet. Who knows if this thing might be missed? If he were only given the foods, he could certainly make sure he ate it all. But don't forget, there's also Nobita and Doryan. Nobita loves to cause mischief. He might secretly slip a dorayaki into his pocket and head out the door. What's wrong, cousin Shiraishi? Nobita and Doryan were both stunned by Shiraishi's reaction and looked at him in confusion. It's probably better not to use props. We can't rely on props for everything. Shiraishi then spoke, but Doryan and Nobita still seemed a little hesitant. So Shiraishi simply shoved a dorayaki into Nobita's hand. Don't use the doubling potion anymore. I'll share one with you. Food tastes better when shared, right? Nobita Nobi smiled. Took a bite of his dorayaki and exclaimed happily, mmm. It's so delicious, just like Shiraishi said. The sweets made after hard work are the best, with that. He sat down on the tatami mat and began to enjoy the few dorayaki dishes he had. Hey, Doryan with a relieved smile on his face. Put the double potion back into his four-dimensional magic pocket. Shiraishi breathed a sigh of relief. He wasn't ready to leave Earth yet, moreover. History is interconnected. If the Earth were to be submerged now, future centuries might not even exist, which would be even more disastrous. He also took a dorayaki and started eating it. Dorayaki is essentially a red bean paste pancake. But it must have a unique flavor to make Doryan like it so much. At least Shiraishi's eyes lit up. He thought this thing was indeed very sweet and delicious. Perfect as a snack to replenish his energy in the afternoon. On the other side, after finishing his dorayaki, Nobita gulped down his juice in a few mouthfuls, then grabbed his test paper and ran downstairs to show off his work from the past 2.5 hours to his mom. There's a saying, returning home in wealth and honor is like wearing fine clothes at night. Although this statement isn't quite appropriate in this context, the meaning is the same. Nobita has never been this diligent in his life. So how could he not show off, mother? Shiraishi and Doryan exchanged a glance and chuckled. Before long, Nobita returned skipping as he walked. His steps exceptionally light. The scroll in his hand fluttering back and forth as if it had turned into a ribbon. She was humming a little tune. Just by looking at it, you can tell the result will be good. Did Aunt Tamako praise you? Shiraishi nudged Nobita with his elbow and asked teasingly. He's, you all know what I'm going to do. Nobita scratched his head sheepishly and said, yeah. Mom praised me. How does it feel to be praised by your mom? Doryan also climbed up to Nobita's side. Very good. Nobita nodded without hesitation. Have you decided to keep working hard, of course? Nobita nodded again and said, Mom just praised me. I can't let her down. Doryan and Shiraishi exchanged a glance and decided to strike while the iron was hot. Since that's the case, you've finished your snacks and rested enough. How about we continue studying? I'm sure your cousin Shiraishi would be happy to tutor you again. Shiraishi nodded and said, of course I'm willing. After all, I'm happy to make Aunt Tamako happy. Never mind that, I've been studying for a long time today. And I need to recharge, however it was unexpected. Yet it also seemed to be expected. Nobita collapsed onto the tatami mat, closed his eyes, and covered his face with a roll of paper. Doryan wanted to stop him, but before he could even grab the test paper, he heard snoring, huff, huff, huff. Doryan's lips twitched slightly, and he exchanged a glance with Shiraishi. Both of them helplessly shrugged. Nobita, Nobi, that guy. I don't have any other special talents, but I fall asleep incredibly fast. Here it is, I'll show it to you in no time. Forget it, Doryan. Nobita has already broken through his own limits today. It's the same if he continues tomorrow. Baishi said softly, perfect timing, let's all take a rest. Okay, I understand, cousin Shiraishi, Doryan nodded. Then lay down on the ground, placing his hands on his chest. Looking at the ceiling, feeling completely at peace. With my cousin Shiraishi around, I feel so much more relaxed. It's wonderful. Nobita will definitely get better and better under the influence of his cousin Shiraishi. Shiraishi also collapsed, his eyes slightly closed. This afternoon, it wasn't just Nobita who had a good time. The biggest gain was from Shiraishi Ding. Host has received a skill tutorial. Host, Shiraishi. Physical Constitution, Little Superman. Skill Beginner Teaching 32-100. The teacher has already reached 1/3 of the proficiency level in teaching beginners. At this rating, 3 more days. The skill White Stone will reach the intermediate level. All I can say is that Nobita's reputation as an experienced baby is well-deserved. It's worth mentioning that even if Nobita doesn't actually learn it, he will gain proficiency as long as Shiraishi teaches him. This perfectly matches what Shiraishi learned yesterday after obtaining the cheat code. As long as you work hard, you can gain proficiency. Whoosh. Shiraishi stretched on the tatami mat. He was also planning to take a nap. I closed my eyes and envied Nobita's ability to fall asleep whenever he wanted. And to fall into a deep sleep, it was so enviable. Or rather, most children are like this in his previous life. Shiraishi was an adult, and his mind was always full of things before he went to sleep, making it difficult for him to fall asleep, fortunately. When he returned to elementary school, Shiraishi's mindset gradually improved, and he fell asleep not long after collapsing to the ground. Time passed slowly and it was about 3:10 p.m. Shiraishi and Doryan had already woken up. Did you sleep well, Doryan? Baishi asked. Of course, it feels comfortable. Doryan stretched and said, Nobita was very easy to deal with today. And I slept very comfortably, that's good. Baishi nodded and smiled. After all, I am now a member of the family, and it is my honor to be able to do something for the family. Hehe, cousin Shiraishi. Please take good care of me in the future. Doryan sat cross-legged with a smile on his face. Looking quite serious, haha, don't worry. Shiraishi smiled and patted Doryan's big head. Nobita. Sunio is calling you, come down and answer it. At that moment, Nobi Tamako's voice rang out from below. Shiraishi and Doryan exchanged a glance, then forcefully woke Nobita up. What happened? Cousin Shiraishi, Doryan. Nobita yawned, looking like he hadn't had enough sleep. To this, Shiraishi could only sigh. Sleeping for such a long time isn't enough for you. Are you trying to fly? In contrast, Doryan was already used to it. Nobita falls asleep quickly, sleeps soundly, and sleeps for long periods. As long as you don't wake him, he can sleep until tomorrow. Sunio is looking for you, Nobita. Hurry up and answer the phones. What does Zairafu want from me? Nobita put on his glasses, wiped away the tears from the corners of his eyes, and then went downstairs with Shiraishi and Doryan, picking up the phone that was placed to the side. Hey Duksheng, what are you up to? Why are you only answering the phone now? As soon as I picked up the phone, I heard Zairafu complaining. I've been waiting for you for ages, yeah, Nobita. If you slow down any further, I'm going to beat you up. At the same time, there was also a threatening voice from Jian. I was just sleeping, who knew you would suddenly contact me? Nobita couldn't help but retort, what's up, Sunio? Yu Ziofu was taken aback, but he forced himself to remain calm and said, I have something to discuss with you and cousin Baishi. Let's meet up at the back mountains. Why do you suddenly want to take me to the back mountain? Nobi Deyu's suspicious path. Sai, it's just a few small things. Sunio seemed a little embarrassed to speak, so Jian took the phone from him and said, Sunio is too embarrassed to say it, so I'll say it. This morning, Sunio stormed off in a huff, right? Then he realized he shouldn't have treated us like that. So he brought his remote-controlled car over. Wanting to trade with you. We'll go to the back hill and let you and Shiraishi play with the latest remote-controlled car. And then we'll go to the open space and let Doryan let Sunio play with his gadgets too. And for this reason, I want to apologize to you and my cousin Shiraishi. Oh. I see, Nobita suddenly realized. Doryan didn't hear what it was about but Shiraishi, with his excellent hearing, heard it clearly and immediately became suspicious. Is Sunio the kind of person who apologizes? It doesn't look like it at all. If that's the case, then there's no problem. Before Beishi could figure it out, Nobita readily and casually accepted Sunio and Giant's invitation. Oh right, Nobita, at that moment. Sunio spoke again on the other end of the phone. No. Don't tell Doryan about this. Just you and Shiraishi-san will be fine. Why? Nobita scratched his head, still not understanding the mystery. Harmful. After Alitz about an apology. So the fewer people there are, the better. Sunio sounded a little embarrassed and Fat Tiger chimed in. Yeah, it's already pretty good that Sunio apologized. It's better if there are fewer people. Let's save face for Sunio. Of course, it mainly depends on you. If Nobita wants to bring Doryan along. That's not impossible. Upon hearing this, Nobita immediately shook his head and said, all right. All right, whatever you say. I'll take my cousin Shiraishi to the back mountain right away. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Why do you want to take cousin Shiraishi to the back mountain? Doryan scratched his head, looking bewildered. It's nothing. It's just that Sunio and Giant suddenly invited me and my cousin Shiraishi to go play in the back mountain. Nobita didn't say much. He just pulled Shiraishi out the door. Nobita is in such a hurry, Doryan shook his head. Watched the two leaving, then went back to his room to rest. Oh no, I have a date with Zayomi today. Follow behind Nobita's. Shiraishi was thinking about what was wrong with Sunio and Giant. First of all, Sunio is too strange. He thinks he knows a lot about the characters in Doryan. So how could he possibly apologize? It's strange that Doryan isn't allowed to come along. Why not? Because if you want to use Doryan's gadgets later, you still need to find Doryan. Furthermore, at last line, suggesting that Nobita could bring Doryan along, is still quite strange. It has a distinct tea-like quality. While it's said that having Doryan with you is fine, hearing it makes you feel uncomfortable. Not to mention Giant, who speaks like a comedian, always in sync with Sunio. All I can say is that Sunio and Giant were acting strangely this afternoon. Never mind, it's nothing. Shiraishi suddenly felt a bit foolish, actually taking it seriously to analyze Giant and Sunio's intentions. What's there to analyze? We can just ask them directly later. What trouble can these two little brats possibly cause? Soon, Shiraishi followed Nobita to the back mountain. The back mountain, that the group of friends usually refers to as a park at the foot of the mountain that can be reached without walking too far uphill. Where are Giant and Sunio? Nobita arrived at the park, completely bewildered. Giant and Sunio hadn't seen him at all. Oh no, it's here. Zio Fu suddenly appeared out of nowhere, clapping his hands. A slingshot in his left hand and a smug smile on his face. Hee, you guys really came. This kid is definitely hiding something. Shiraishi figured it out, Nobita still not realizing it. Looked left and right and asked Sunio, "Where's Giant?" Nobita, you really are an idiot, Sunio laughed and said. Do you really think I'd apologize to you and your cousin Shiraishi? I invited you to the back mountain because I was going to teach you a lesson. I told you not to bring Doryan. And you really didn't bring Doryan. You're such a huge idiot, Nobita, you're really stupid. Just then, Fat Tiger's voice came from the tree next to them. It turned out that Fat Tiger had climbed up a tree next to them. He held a slingshot in his left hand and a pebble bouncing around in his right. You. Even the dim-witted Nobita understood what Sunio and Giant meant, and immediately panicked, shielding Shiraishi behind him, shouting, Doryan. Ha, what's the point of calling for Doryan now? Sunio laughed heartily, placed a pebble on his slingshot, and pulled back the bow, shouting, Giant, go for it. All right, Sunio, I've been itching to try it for ages. Fat Tiger said excitedly, in this kind of thing. Fat Tiger is a master shooting pebbles with a bow, biu. Two pebbles were shot at Nobita, who was standing in front of Shiro. Nobita instinctively closed his eyes and put his hands in front of his face. But the pain he expected didn't come. Nobita opened his eyes in confusion and found that Shiraishi was now blocking his way. Shiraishi held two pebbles in each hand and bounced them around like Sunio had just done. "Are you guys even capable, Giant and Sunio?" Shiraishi made a sarcastic remark. But he couldn't say anything about the two's behavior. "That's just how brats are, you Sunio." Seeing Shiraishi's arrogance, was so enraged by Shiraishi's words that his face turned red. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Giant, let's fire in quick succession, roger that. This kid's too arrogant, oink oink," in an instant. 4 more pebbles were launched at the white stone, however. Baishi quickly blocked them all with his hands, and they fell to the ground with a thud. UB*****D. Giant was furious and stopped listening to Sunio's commands, firing pebbles like a machine gun. Unfortunately, every shot was blocked by Shiraishi. It fell to the ground with a thud. "Cousin Shiraishi, you're amazing." Nobita was stunned, then shouted excitedly, "Ha ha ha. We must teach Giant and Sunio a lesson. Let them see how powerful you are right now." Giant and Sunio were completely stunned by Shiraishi's actions, especially Sunio, who quickly showed fear and turned to run away. "You monster!" Fat Tiger also looked surprised. To the children, Shiraishi's move was nothing short of divine. It was incredibly impressive, regardless of whether they can win or not. Whenever I see this kind of operation, I reflexively think that this guy is very strong. Ridiculously strong, and then I want to run away in panic. Even if in reality, Shiraishi's size is nothing compared to Giant's. It doesn't matter. This is a fear that stems from psychological factors. Sunio and Giant are thinking about this right now. Just then Zaiafu turned around and was about to run away. A smile appeared on Shiraishi's face as he casually tossed a pebble from his hand. Whoosh, it was thrown by hand, but it felt more powerful than a slingshot, hitting Zaiafu directly on the thigh. All I heard was a cry of pain. Zaiafu fell to the ground with a thud, retreating repeatedly in front of Bai, terrified. Shiraishi grinned, slyly tossing another pebble in his hand, and slowly approached Sunny, asking Sunio, "What did you call me just now? What's so strange about that?" "Na na 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 na, you misheard, Kasin, you misheard." As Zaiafu retreated, he was sweating profusely. Then he waved his hand, but unfortunately his foot hurt, so he could only rub his feet on the ground. "Fat Tiger, where do you think you're going to run to?" Shiraishi didn't even glance at it. He then threw another pebble which shot down Fat Tiger, who was halfway down the tree and about to run away. It's the same sound, ouch. Fat Tiger fell straight into the bushes. Then she quickly and consciously climbed over to Zaiafu's side, leaned against him, and looked at Shiraishi with trembling eyes. Those who don't know might think Shiraishi is a great demon king, while Giant and Sunio are just bullied commoners. Cousin, you're amazing." Nobita watched the whole thing, his face full of excitement, his hands constantly waving as if in martial arts poses. "Those Giant and Sunio actually tricked us into coming here to ambush us. They're so mean, we have to teach them a lesson." Nobita, you're right." Shiraishi nodded in agreement, then glanced at the two of them. "Cousin Shiraishi, don't listen to Nobita." Giant and Sunio pressed their faces together. Their fingers intertwined and they were both in tears. "Why won't you listen?" Shiraishi deliberately lowered his voice. Just like the villains in cartoons, he bent slightly, squinted at them and said in a very authoritative tone, "I think the best way to deal with you two naughty kids is to break the hands that are holding slingshots." "Zaz, Mom." Giant and Sunio couldn't hold back any longer and turned to run away, calling out for their mother as they ran. "Ha-ha-ha. Giant and Sunio are just too funny. Ha-ha-ha-ha." Nobita burst into laughter, watching the two run away. Shiraishi's eyes were also full of smiles. He straightened up, crossed his arms, and said in a nonchalant tone, I'm thinking about something." Should I tell your mother about what's going on here? Fat Tiger Giant stopped abruptly, and then grabbed Sunio, who was about to continue running away. Ah, Giant. Why are you grabbing me? Cousin Shiraishi only mentioned you, didn't he? Giant ignored Sunio's wailing. She grabbed him and turned him around, then ran to Shiraishi's side with a very obsequious smile, saying, "Have Cousin Shiraishi. This whole thing was planned by that guy Zairafu. It has nothing to do with me. That guy Zairafu is really despicable. If you want, I'll definitely teach him a lesson for you." It seems to be to prove the credibility of what he said. Giant then viciously punched Sunio on the head, causing Sunio to crouch down and cover his head in defense. Shiraishi couldn't help but chuckle, but he managed to suppress his laughter. Besides his love for bullying others, Giant has another unique characteristic. That's a truly filial son, someone who cares deeply about his family. He hates it most when his mother finds out that he bullies others outside. He'll definitely get a beating. In the eyes of a child this age, parents are more terrifying than anything else. And even the king of kids, Fat Tiger, is no exception, really. Before Shiraishi could speak, Nobita, standing beside him, said suspiciously. A well character appeared on Giant's forehead. "You stinky Nobita, are you questioning me, Giant?" However, when you're under someone's roof, you have to bow your head. Giant could only nod repeatedly and say, "Of course, yeah, of course. It must be Sunio's scheme. I was just tricked into coming here. What the hell, Giant? You were the one who came first, yeah." Once the pain subsided, Zio-Fu became a little anxious when he heard Giant speaking. But Giant quickly covered his mouth with his hand with a smirk. "I think so too." Nobita, looking up, couldn't see anything wrong at all. Instead, he nodded seriously and said, "Giant is definitely not the kind of person who could come up with such an idea. Only someone like Sunio, who looks cunning at first glance, would come up with such an idea in that instant." The character Chinese letter appeared on the foreheads of both Giant and Sunio. Nobita, *****D, seriously, that's so infuriating. It's obvious Giant and Sunio are really angry. Even with Shiraishi, a powerful friend who makes them feel like they have to bow their heads under someone else's roof, they still have to endure it. They couldn't help but feel their skin turning red. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, as if he wanted to rush up and devour Nobita alive right now. "Nobita, you're really amazing." Shiraishi gave Nobita a thumbs up, looking at him with great amazement. Goodness. He genuinely admired Nobita's ability. With just one short sentence, he offended both Giant and Sunio. That statement is no different from pointing your finger at Giant and saying he's a pig-headed person, or that Sunio looks like a bad guy. No wonder Nobita often gets beaten up. Even if it were Shiraishi, he would still beat him up. That kid's words really deserve a beating. "No, you're still the best, Cousin Shiraishi." Nobita clearly didn't realize what Shiraishi meant. He even scratched his head sheepishly. "It's hopeless." Shiraishi helplessly covered his forehead. He couldn't help but want to punch Nobita, but right now, it's better to deal with the two of them, Giant and Sunio, first. They noticed that Shiraishi was looking at them. Giant immediately stood at attention, nearly choking Sunio. Ouch! Suddenly Shiraishi twitched his left hand, then began pressing the muscles in his left hand with his right, his brow furrowing slightly as he said, "Ouch. Why does my hand hurt a little? Ouch. Both my hands hurt a little. Were you hurt by you just now? What if I suffer any lasting effects? I think I should talk to your mother. Otherwise, how will she get me to the hospital?" Although this was utter nonsense, neither Giant, Sunio, nor even Nobita believed Shiraishi's lies, and their performances were quite clumsy. But Giant is still quite shrewd in these situations. He immediately gave Zairafu a push. Then she fawned over Shiraishi and massaged his left hand, while Sunio was forced to massage his right hand. "Cousin Shiraishi, let me give you a massage." The two of them acted like lackeys. He clung to Beishi and sat him down on the bench next to him. "How are you feeling, Cousin Shiraishi?" "It's all right." It would be even better if you pressed harder. No problem, Sunio, didn't you eat? Okay. Okay, why am I suddenly feeling thirsty again, Sunio? Hurry up and buy the best drink for cousin Shiraishi. No. It has to be not only the best but also the most expensive. Do you understand, why do I have to go? And why the most expensive one? Nonsense, you're the richest person here. Why would I go if not you, I understand. Sunio was intimidated by Giant's threatening gaze. He couldn't afford to offend Shiraishi. And he couldn't afford to offend Giant either. With a long face, it could only run quickly down the mountain. Complaining as he ran, what the hell? It was Fat Tiger who came to my house first. Cousin Shiraishi only threatened to tell your mother. Not that he was going to tell her. You shouldn't have left me here, that wretched Fat Tiger. Sunio, what are you doing? You hurry up. Can't you see that Shiraishi is incredibly thirsty? Okay, I really understand. Please stop rushing me. Oh, Shiraishi watched as Giant massaged him while he drank Sprite. A rather luxurious beverage for his age. Nabita Nobi watched from the side. The admiration in his eyes was almost overflowing. Cousin Shiraishi is so amazing, so amazing. I want to become a man like him when I grow up. If Shiraishi knew what Nabita was thinking, would only say, young man, if you want to become a man like me, first learn how to bask in the sun and become stronger. How was it, cousin Shiraishi? Was the drink good? Was the massage comfortable? Giant is acting like a complete sycophant right now. Really not wanting Shiraishi to tattle on him. For many children of this age, tattling is a very shameful thing. But Shiraishi would never think that way. This kind of brat needs to be tattled on so his parents can teach him a lesson. Of course, since little fatty tiger had already done this, Shiraishi naturally wouldn't go and complain. If he still doesn't repent, he definitely won't hesitate to report him to the police. And Sathi tortured Giant and Sunio for about an hour, making them run up and down buying this snack and that drink, which was equivalent to climbing mountains several times. In the end, Giant and Sunio ran separately, both of them exhausted, collapsing on the ground, panting, heavily unable to speak. All right, let's go, Nobita. Shiraishi stood up stretched, and then led Nobita away from the back mountain. Only Giant and Sunio were left panting heavily, drenched in sweat, their clothes completely soaked. Huff. Huff, huff. Giant and Sunio exchanged a glance. My cousin Shiraishi is terrifying. I must never offend him again. That's terrifying, absolutely terrifying, clearly. Shiraishi's ordeal had left Giant and Sunio with psychological trauma. They rested for half an hour, panting heavily, before finally recovering and helping each other climb down the mountain. Back home, Doryan is sitting alone in his room, looking out the window at the scenery, feeling emo because his date with Mimi fell through. Well. Nobita rushed up to Doryan with a carefree attitude. Unable to contain his excitement, and exclaimed, Doryan, do you know what just happened? What happened? Doryan glanced at Nobita and asked listlessly. He is now completely despondent. Xiaomi seemed angry just now and ignored him. I don't know what to do to coax her back just now. Fat Tiger and Sunio invited us to the back mountain, lying to me that they wanted to invite cousin Shiraishi along so they could apologize to him. But actually those two guys brought slingshots with them. They just wanted to bully me and my cousin Shiraishi. Before Nobita could finish speaking, Doryan was already fuming, puffing out his beard and glaring at him. The frustration he had just felt from Xiaomi exploded at this moment. What, Giant and Sunio, those two annoying guys? Doryan, with lightning-fast reflexes and a flushed face, was so angry that he pulled out 3 air cannons and 3 bamboo copters from his 4-dimensional magic pocket. Follow me. I'm going to teach these two a lesson they'll learn, and show them what Doryan is all about. It's clear that Doryan is really angry. If it's just Nobita being bullied because of Xiaomi just now, he might not even bother with Duxing and just let it go with a casual "oh." It's just that Nobita is often bullied by Giant and Sun, and there's no way to change that. He stood up for him today, but he'll still be bullied tomorrow. Children are like that, they don't remember pain. The main issue is that Shiraishi was also involved. In Doryan's eyes, Shiraishi was simply the best cousin imaginable. They've gone too far by bullying even people like that. I can't stand it, I simply can't stand it. Forget it, forget it. Shiraishi and Nobita were both startled. Nobita rarely sees an angry Doryan. Shiraishi was terrified that Doryan would blast Giant and Sunio to death with a single shot. You know, Doryan is a childcare robot who can pull out a galactic destruction bomb when getting rid of mice. No, 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 brother, do calm down, brother, do. Shiraishi and Nobita hugged Doryan together. He kept trying to calm Doryan down. No way. I have to teach them a lesson. These two bastards dare to bully my cousin. They're absolutely despicable. Doryan was so angry he lost his mind. The bamboo dragonfly was spinning on his head, almost dragging Shiraishi and Nobita into flight. Forget it, really forget it, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. Shiraishi could only hold on to Doryan and then try to persuade him with earnest words. That's right, besides, cousin Shiraishi has already taught Giant and Sunio a lesson. Doryan, you don't need to do anything. Nobita's words made Doryan stop in his tracks. The bamboo dragonflies slowly came to a stop, and he turned his head uttering a blank sound. Huh, what? Nobita was slightly taken aback, then quickly said, Brother Shiraishi has already taught Giant and Sunio a lesson. You don't need to go anymore, Doryan. Yes, I always believe in settling scores on the spot. How could I not teach them a lesson? Shiraishi also tried to persuade him from the side. Oh, really? Doryan glanced at Nobita and Shiraishi suspiciously. I have a feeling that these two are teaming up to fool me. What's going on after all? Just by looking at his physique, you would never guess that Shiraishi could beat Giant. Of course it's true, would we lie to you? Shiraishi tried to dissuade him again, then crossed his arms and said, besides, you're underestimating me too much. How could Giant and Sunio possibly be my match? Yeah. Doryan, you have no idea how cool Shiraishi was just now. He easily taught Giant and Sunio a lesson. Just thinking about it makes me laugh so hard. Nobita Nobi felt a sense of satisfaction recalling the scene from earlier. Even Doryan stopped pulling him, and he just rolled around on the ground laughing out loud. Giant, who loves to bully other sans Sunio, who is arrogant and loves to show off. He's completely become his cousin Shiraishi's servant. Real, but Doryan was still suspicious. Wait a minute, I'll prove it to you. Shiraishi looked to the left and right, then looked at Doryan, his eyes lighting up slightly. Then he walked over to Doryan, hugged Doryan's big head, and took a deep breath, then suddenly held it in. Doryan was lifted upside down and held upside down. Wow, yeah, Doryan was startled, fell head first, and waved his short arms and legs frantically, but was held firmly by Shiraishi. I understand, cousin Shiraishi. Put me down now. I believe you can teach Giant and Sunio a lesson. Upon hearing this, Shiraishi finally put Doryan down. He also patted his hands to remove non-existent dust. Now you believe me, right? Baishi sat cross-legged on the ground and asked sarcastically. I believed it completely. Doryan looked at Shiraishi with an inhuman gaze thinking. That strength is just too much, cousin. You're amazing, so you can even pick up Doryan. Nobita, standing nearby, was already stunned, you know. He also tried to hug Doryan, but he didn't budge an inch. Although he wasn't very strong, even Giant couldn't lift it. Which should tell you something. What do you mean, Nobita? Are you saying I'm heavy and fat? Doryan glanced at Nobita sideways. Of course not, ahahaha. Nobita quickly waved his hand, HMPH. Her weight is just that of a normal robot, she's not fat at all. In fact, she's quite slender. Doryan stood with his hands on his hips, looking quite proud, slender, puff. Nobita and Shiraishi looked at Doryan's barrel-like figure, exchanged a glance and almost burst out laughing. Hey, what are you laughing at? Am I not telling the truth? Doryan was furious again, his arms crossed, glaring fiercely at Shiraishi and Nobita. Of course not. Shiraishi and Nobita waved their hands repeatedly. Forget it, I'm too lazy to argue with you guys. Doryan pouted and said nonchalantly, but Cousin Shiraishi, your strength is really too great. No wonder Dad said you were born with superhuman strength. I didn't believe it at first. Yes, I didn't believe it before either. Nabita Nobi chimed in from the side. Now you believe me, right? Shiraishi spread his hands out, I believe it. Doryan and Nabita nodded at the same time. There's nothing I can do if I don't believe it. The facts are right in front of me. Can disbelief change the facts? You should know that Doryan may be small in stature. But don't forget that he's a robot just because his words and actions are full of wisdom. Doryan weighs a whopping 129.3 kg. That's a full 250 jin. That's the weight of 2 normal adults. Shiraishi was able to be picked up at such a young age. Isn't that a sign of superhuman strength? Cough, cough. It is worth mentioning, Doryan's weight is 1293 height. Head circumference at chest circumference. Waist circumference and hip circumference are all 129.3. No, not at all, Shiraishi waved his hand modestly. Doryan is so heavy he couldn't even lift him yesterday. It was only after he got some extra sunshine today that I was able to pick him up. Albeit with difficulty, don't be modest, Cousin Beishi. You truly possess superhuman strength. Doryan and Nobita give a thumbs up together. The three of them exchanged a glance and burst into laughter. Next, Nobita told Doryan about what had just happened. Doryan exclaimed in surprise, looking at Shiraishi with an admiring gaze. The two of them showered Shiraishi with praise in response. Shiraishi could only tell them to sit down, keep it down. Keep it down, since the last time. Giant and Sunio's attitude towards Shiraishi improved considerably. He kept calling me cousin repeatedly. During her time with Shiraishi, she discovered that he was a very easygoing friend. And she started calling him cousin more naturally, gradually becoming less reserved. This is something Shiraishi would like to see, after all. He didn't want to actually scare Giant and Sunny. That would ruin the fun. This is Doryan, my childhood memory, however. They didn't play together for more than a few days. Because on the third day after Shiraishi came to this world, Sunio was taken on a trip by his cousin. It said they're going to some kind of beach. The next 2.5 days passed peacefully. It's worth mentioning that Shiraishi was giving Nobita a good talking to just a few days ago. As it turns out, Nobita, being such a good-for-nothing, only had a bit of passion for those few days, fortunately. Shiraishi had gained a lot of experience from Nobita in the past few days, and his teaching skills had reached the intermediate level. Once you reach the intermediate level, the required proficiency level increases 5-fold. Shiraishi could understand after all. The difference between beginner and intermediate levels was almost comparable to the difference between an ordinary teacher and a professor. If it reaches the advanced level, it would probably be at the highest level of humankind. Any higher? That's still outside of Shiraishi's current imagination. Another thing worth mentioning is that Shiraishi has gained a few more skills in the past few days. We need to teach Nobita. Shiraishi inevitably had to go back and review his studies again. This also allowed him to acquire some skills. Host Shiraishi. Physical Constitution, Little Superman. Skills Intermediate Teaching 3500. Intermediate Mathematics 12500. Intermediate Huxia Language 1/500. Number of draws 1. In both Mathematics and Huxia, Beishi was at the intermediate level from the beginning. After all, he does have a solid foundation in the field. The only chance to win a prize was as a bonus for advancing from the beginner to the intermediate level in the tutorial. It was only then that Shiraishi realized that upgrading skills could also grant him chances to draw prizes. Let's try our luck in the lottery and see what we can win. Shiraishi rubbed his hands together. Last time it was a Nobi gift pack, which could also be considered a lottery as a result. He was drawn to have the incredibly beneficial superhuman physique, which allows him to become stronger simply by basking in the sun. Come on, let's have a lucky draw, start the prize draw. The words had barely left his mouth A disc appeared in front of the white stone. The lucky draw will begin immediately. The pointer in the center of the disc didn't move, but the disc began to spin rapidly. Shiraishi used his extraordinary eyesight to try his best to capture some pattern. But afterwards he found that he could not capture anything. That's true if he could really figure out the pattern. That would be amazing. About 3 seconds later, the disc slowly came to a stop, and the pointer pointed to a special skill, ding. Congratulations, Shost. You have drawn the special skill Psychic Power. Initiating fusion. Just like the physique of the lucky winner, several blue beams of light appeared out of thin air, slowly circling around Baishi's body before entering between his eyebrows. He closed his eyes in enjoyment and, after a while, he slowly opened them. Host, Shiraishi. Physical Constitution, Little Superman. Skills Intermediate Teaching 3500. Intermediate Mathematics 12500. Intermediate Huxia Language 1500. Special Skill Basic Telekinesis 0500. Number of draws 0. Psychic Power. Shiraishi looked pleasantly surprised. Just as the system described. The lottery draw contained special skills that I couldn't learn. He looked at the pen on the desk next to him and tried to lift it with his telekinesis. Shiraishi stared intently at the pen. With his constant urging, the pen was slowly lifted up and floated shakily in midair. Very good. Baishi's face lit up with joy. Just like a child who has just received a new toy. He draws all sorts of patterns in the sky with this pen. The telekinesis felt to Shiraishi like another non-existent hand. That feeling was wonderful. It couldn't be described in words. Ding. Special skills Psychic Power used Proficiency +1. Ding. Special skills Psychic Power used Proficiency +1. Ding. Special skills Psychic Power used Proficiency +1. However, Shiraishi hasn't been playing for very long yet. He felt a weakness coming from the depths of his soul. His face quickly turned from rosy to pale. His legs staggered, and the pen fell straight to the ground. Hiss. Shiraishi covered his head and gasped. His physical body was still thin after all. Superman's physique was no joke. But his soul was extremely exhausted. This level of mental power is still too weak. I get exhausted just from moving the pen. Shiraishi shook his head. Host, Shiraishi. Physical Constitution, Little Superman. Skills Intermediate Teaching 3500. Intermediate Mathematics 12500. Intermediate Huxia Language 1500. Special Skill Basic Telekinesis 5500. Number of draws 0. Special skills are special skills. Even at the beginner levels, it takes 500 proficiency points to upgrade. Moreover, Shiraishi only gained 5 points of proficiency after playing until he was exhausted. That's really an exaggeration. Shiraishi estimated that he needed a good rest before he could continue to gain proficiency. Based on this calculation, Shiraishi estimates that he can only gain a maximum of 7 to 8 proficiency points per day. It takes 2 months to advance 1 level. This is just the beginning. If you reach the intermediate level, who knows how much proficiency is required? 1,000. There are definitely more than that, even for basic skills. The proficiency increases 5-fold from beginner to intermediate levels. Special skills definitely at least 5 times. Moreover, the uniqueness of special skills may be even greater. Just thinking about it gave Shiraishi a headache. Good heavens, when will he ever reach the advanced level? Of course, that's not how it's calculated. Because as your proficiency in telekinesis increases, Shiraishi will have more and more time to use his Nen abilities each day, which will naturally increase his proficiency. Therefore, it doesn't actually take 2 months to advance to the intermediate level. It might only take 40 or 50 days. Even so, it's still terrifying compared to ordinary skills. It's worth noting that Shiraishi leveled up his ordinary skills to intermediate level in just 1 week. It's understandable that special skills are stronger than ordinary skills. Shiraishi lay down on the tatami mat to rest. At this moment, da-da-da. The sound of hurried footsteps rang out, and it was immediately clear that Nobita was chasing after Doryan. Sure enough, Doryan opened the door first. with Nobita following behind Doryan. As soon as Doryan entered the house, Nobita hugged Doryan's big blue head and burst into tears. Nobita, I already told you I don't have a pirate sword. Doryan looked up at the sky speechlessly and said, as a childcare robot, how could I possibly have anything dangerous like that? Buff, Shiraishi almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. No. He actually burst out laughing. Cousin Shiraishi, what are you laughing at, Doryan? Feeling miserable from Nobita's torment, couldn't help but look at Shiraishi upon hearing his laughter. Nobita also stopped his tears from streaming down his face. It's nothing, it's nothing. Baishi waved his hand repeatedly. I just couldn't help but feel a little upset when Doryan said that he was a childcare robot and didn't have dangerous things like pirate swords. Not wanting to say more, quickly changed the subject, saying, Nobita, are you bothering Doryan again? I just wanted to ask Doryan for a pirate sword. Remembering this, Nobita started crying again, hugging and ruffling Doryan's head, saying, Brother Shiraishi, look at my pirate hat. All I'm missing is a pirate sword. Giant promised to play a pirate game with me, and if I don't find the pirate sword, he's definitely going to beat me up. Doryan, please help me. Doryan was really annoyed. Nobita tilde, I already told you. I'm a childcare robot. How could I have something like a sword? Shiraishi felt that the plot sounded very familiar. Or perhaps it's the start of a theatrical film's plot. He was somewhat puzzled but couldn't recall the specifics. There's nothing we can do about it. Shiraishi is indeed a die-hard Doryan fan. But that was during the period from 6th grade to junior high school. I know all of Doryan's movies by heart, and I've watched each one countless times. But junior high school is the age when students love to show off and care the most about their image. Shiraishi once wanted to share Doryan's stories with her friends, but they laughed at her for being so old and still watching Doryan. Since then, Shiraishi has rarely watched Doryan. Looking back, I was so foolish to care about what people were saying. But there's no way around it. How can you call it youth if you haven't experienced that kind of time? Then came high school, where I was overwhelmed by studying every day and had no chance to relax. After starting university, I was so engrossed in playing video games that I didn't have time to rewatch Doryan. They entered society, needless to say, besides work. I just stay at home and do nothing, so I have no time at all. Therefore, this applies to many of the content in the Doryan movies. Baishi could only remember the general outline. He had long forgotten the details, and he could hardly recall some of the names. This is truly a regrettable thing. I wish I could rewatch Doryan before time traveling. That way, the theatrical version can take many detours on its own. Never mind, Shiraishi shook his head. Since things are already like this, there's no need to dwell on the past. Since we're here, let's make the best of it. Just keep moving forward and leave the rest to fate. He looked at Nobita, who was still begging Doryan, and said, Nobita, stop bothering Doryan. If Doryan had won, he would have given it to you long ago. Nobita collapsed to the ground in utter despair, sobbing uncontrollably. Don't cry, what's there to cry about? I remember there are some of your childhood toys in the closet. Look for them, maybe you'll find them. Shiraishi opened the wardrobe these days. Wardrobes can hardly be called wardrobes anymore. The top part is where Doryan sleeps, while the bottom part is used to store miscellaneous items. Shiraishi pulled out a box, looked around, and found an inflatable pirate sword. Look, here it is. Thank you, cousin Shiraishi. Nobita looked at the sword with delight, grabbed it, and ran outside, but halfway there, he poked his head out and said, Brother Shiraishi, do you want to come play with me? Forget it. Shiraishi shook his head and said, I'm not interested in pirate games. He was feeling a little tired and preferred to stay home and rest. Okay, I'm off then. After saying that, Nobita ran downstairs and headed towards the open space. You're really amazing, cousin Shiraishi. Watching Nobita leave, Doryan let out a huge sigh of relief, his face showing signs of exhaustion. It seems that Nobita has been pestering them for a long time. Thank you for your hard work, Doryan. Shiraishi patted Doryan and sighed. Taking care of this mischievous kid, Nobita, is incredibly demanding and exhausting, and he's certainly experienced that firsthand during this time. It's all right. After all, I came to this era to take care of Nobita. Doryan said nonchalantly, then patted his chest proudly. Besides, I'm an excellent childcare robot. Taking care of Nobita is a piece of cake for me. Yes, yes, you are the best. There is no better childcare robot than Doryan. She echoed with a smile. This is not a perfunctory response. Although Doryan's performance may not be as good as other childcare robots, let alone the latest baby care robots, even if they are the same model of childcare robot manufactured at the same time. Doryan is always counting down, however. For both Nobita and Shiraishi, Doryan has long since transcended the scope of a childcare robot. Then he is the best, it's not that great. Doryan blushed and scratched his head sheepishly. By the way, Doryan, I haven't seen Mimi on the rooftop lately. Is she still angry? Shiraishi suddenly remembered something and couldn't help but ask. No, there isn't, Doryan chuckled and said. I made plans with Xiaomi today, and we're heading out in a bit, keep it up. Shiraishi continued. Don't let your little girlfriend down, what? Cousin Shiraishi, she's not my little girlfriend. Doryan's face flushed red instantly, he pouted. Swayed back and forthand said shyly. We're just ordinary friends. Yes, just friends, yes, just friends. Doryan couldn't take it anymore with Shiraishi's teasing gaze. So he took out his bamboo copter and flew away. It took about an hour. Shiraishi went to the bathroom because of an upset stomach. When he came back, he found Nobita bothering Doryan again. Doryan, you have no idea how arrogant Suno is. He's already been taught a lesson by Shiraishi-san. Nobita still looked very unconvinced, waving his limp inflatable pirate sword around. But the next second, she suddenly hugged Doryan's big head and burst into tears. But Doryan, I really want to go diving too, as they talked. Nobita grabbed 3 of Doryan's whiskers. This caused Doryan's face to become extremely distorted. Doryan tilde. Shiraishi almost burst out laughing when he saw this scene. These Doryan scenes are just too funny, big. Doryan being pestered like this managed to utter a single word with great difficulty, before pulling out a pair of brown glasses from his 4-dimensional magic pocket and saying, You put these on first, what is this thing? Nobita's gaze was immediately drawn to it, and he picked up the glasses, Doryan finally breathed a sigh of relief and explained. Nobita, aren't you going to go diving? Little White is back too, just. Doryan took out another pair of glasses and handed them to Shiraishi. You should wear these too. Okay, Shiraishi took the glasses mild and asked. So what's going on, well? Doryan looked at Nobita helplessly and said Nobita. He got bullied by Suno and the others again. Suno came back from diving at a tourist spot, and Nobita wanted to go diving too, so I took out this gadget. Nobita, you really know how to cause trouble for Doryan. Shiraishi tapped Nobita on the forehead, but Suno is the same. He just loves to show off. Don't they know that Nobita has Doryan? Doryan proudly put his hands on his hips and said, Of course. With me here, how could I let Nobita suffer any injustice? Nobita scratched his head sheepishly. Hey Doryan, what exactly is this thing? You'll see once you put them on when this comes up. Doryan simply puts his hands behind his back, smiles, and doesn't say a word, pretending to be an expert. Shiraishi and Nobita exchanged a glance and simultaneously put on their glasses. After putting on the glasses, nothing changed at home except for the water pump behind Doryan, which kept pumping water out of thin air. In just a short while, some water had already accumulated on the floor of the house. Shiraishi looked around in amazement. Although he had forgotten most of the movie's content, he could still remember a little bit about this. Why, Nobita was startled and screamed, staring blankly at his surroundings. He slipped and fell to the ground. Doryan, what are you doing? If Mom sees this, I'm sure I'll get scolded. Doryan smiled. completely unconcerned about Nobita's words instead. He walked up to the water pump and started filling it with water himself. Doryan! Nobita frantically clutched his head, yelling, "Oh no. Oh no, you're still pressing the button, I'm doomed. Mom's going to kill me, don't worry Nobita." How could Doryan not have thought of this? Shiraishi's ears were starting to hurt from the noise. So he couldn't help but speak up, "Things you can think of." Doryan couldn't have imagined this. Nobita, you think too highly of yourself. Listen to your cousin Shiraishi, don't rush Nobita. Doryan maintained his expert demeanor and chuckled. Take off your glasses and let me see, huh? Nobita took off his glasses, the water is gone. Put it back on, the water came out again, then pick it off. The water is gone again, what's going on Doryan? Nobita was stunned. Shiraishi also tried it out, I really don't know how this kind of prop works. Doryan chuckled and grinned smugly saying, this is virtual seawater. And the glasses are virtual seawater tactile glasses. As long as you don't wear the glasses, you won't touch or feel the virtual seawater. And you won't get wet. Mom won't know and you won't get scolded. After Doryan finished speaking, fell silent. Waiting for praise, however, after a long time. Nobita suddenly exclaimed in surprise, Doryan. You're not planning to use this to make me experience what it's like to go diving. Are you? Doryan fell silent, speechless. Nobita, your reaction time is still so slow. Shiraishi crossed his arms, indicating he was speechless. Sighing, Nobita, you're only realizing this now. Doryan said helplessly, let's fill up the water first. Yay, Nobita excitedly danced around shouting. Let's build an underwater world here. Let's build a huge underwater world. Now we can go divings. Doryan nodded in agreement, how about that? Isn't it great we don't have to go all the way to Hawaii? Of course, Doryan, I love you to death. Nobita tackled Doryan to the ground and started sticking to him like crazy. It tickled Doryan, who kept shouting, no, no, no. The white stone next to him was experiencing this wonderful feeling. He took off his glasses, and the sensation of water on his feet instantly disappeared. It appears instantly when you put it on, he kicked the water. And the splashes landed on him feeling incredibly real. This is amazing, Doryan, a gadget from the future. Shiraishi knew that Doryan had many strange and wonderful gadgets. But experiencing it for the first time, I couldn't help but sigh, ha. Doryan scratched his head, alas. Nobita Nobi sat on the ground, repeatedly paddling the waterway with his feet. Doryan. Can I do it? Come on in. Doryan walked to the side. But in fact, the virtual water pump is still operating on its own. But Nobita seemed oblivious, and excitedly went forward to start pressing frantically. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh while pressing the buttons. Nobita excitedly asked Doryan, how long will it take to finish? It will take a long time, at least until evening. Doryan did some calculations and then said, ah. This sudden change left Nobita completely stunned. He collapsed to the ground, stammering, won't that kill me? No way, Doryan. Nobita, what's going on in your head? If you can think of something. Do you think Doryan wouldn't? She said with exasperation. Didn't you see the virtual water pump is still pumping water? It can store water even without moving. Can't you even wait until nightfall? That's right, cousin Shiraishi is right. Doryan nodded in agreement and said, Nobita. If you can think of something though, you think I Doryan. Can't think of it, okay, I'm sorry Doryan. Nobita scratched his head sheepishly after being scolded by Shiraishi. There's no need to apologize. I know you didn't mean any harms. Doryan offered words of comfort, but Nobita. You probably go diving for more than just the reason you want to. Right. She crossed his arms and looked up to ask the question. He looked like he knew everything. You even noticed that. No wonder your cousin Shiraishi. Nobita first blew on Shiraishi's face, Shyla then said HMPH. I went diving just to take pictures. And they turned out to be really good. That guy Sunio. He's so proud and arrogant about taking pictures with a stinky fish. I'm going to show him that I'm better than him. It's just the competitive spirit among kids. So isn't something missing. Baishi didn't care about these things, but instead said something meaningful. Something's missing. Nobita scratched his head, looking bewildered. He looked quite confused. Well, Shiraishi sighed, covered his forehead, and said, fish. Of course it's fish. How are you going to take pictures without fish? Are you going to just take pictures of yourself swimming? You might as well just go to the pool. It's more convenient there. I can go right now, yes. And fish too, Nobita suddenly realized, slapped his hand. And then looked at Doryan's. That longing look made Doryan's lips twitch slightly. But he still said, I already expected this. So let's go and lure the fish out, yay Doryan. You're amazing, you're the best robot in the world. No, not really, Tahafas. Doryan took out 3 bamboo copters from his 4-dimensional magic pocket and handed them to Nobita and Shiraishi. Obi the way, cousin Shiraishi. This seems to be your first time seeing a bamboo dragonfly. Right, that's not it either, Shiraishi teased. I saw it when you got angry last time, Doryan. Doryan blushed slightly, then coughed and said, Cousin Shiraishi, let me explain how to use the bamboo copter. You should be able to get the hang of it quickly, right? Don't worry. Shiraishi waved his hand dismissively and said, even Nobita can master the bamboo copter. So of course I have no problem with it. What, cousin Shiraishi, are you looking down on me? Nobita Nobi started feeding the animals from the side. Clearly dissatisfied, no, I'm just stating the facts. Shiraishi spread his innocent hands out, all right, come on. Cousin Shiraishi, let me tell you. You have to put the bamboo dragonfly on your head and then. What? Doryan explained to Shiraishi in great detail how to use the bamboo copter. Shiraishi listened attentively in a previous life. Doryan also explained how to use the bamboo copter in the anime. But he had long forgotten about that. Okay, I got it. Come on, after listening, Shiraishi nodded. Then stood in front of the window and attached a bamboo dragonfly to his head. Cousin, be careful. This is my first time using a bamboo dragonfly. Nobita seems to have finally found something that he knows, but Shiraishi doesn't. They were even a little proud, pointing and gesturing with their eyes closed. Hey, Nobita, stop talking. Doryan tugged at Nobita's clothes. He then opened his eyes. Then we discovered that the white stone had already flown into the blue sky. Alas, the feeling of flying was really great. Shiraishi couldn't help but let out a cry. Humans have always had a special affection for the blue sky. Although we now have airplanes. But it's definitely different from the feeling of actually flying in the air. Feeling the gentle breeze with your own body is incredibly comfortable. However, on the other hand, bamboo dragonflies allow people to experience the thrill of flying to the fullest extent. But in any case, it still flies with the help of a device. It's still far from being a proper flight, moreover. Bamboo dragonflies won't even qualify as transportation in the future. It's just a child's toy. In terms of speed, it is only 80 kilometers per hour. It's still a bit lacking compared to the kind of flight that Shiraishi envisioned. In his view, one should fly like Superman to truly fly using one's own strength. Unfortunately, Shiraishi is still far from perfect. He can't even grasp the feeling of flying. At most, a jump of a little over 2 meters. It's no wonder he didn't get enough sun. He just didn't get enough time to sunbathe. You should know that Superman was able to fly after being exposed to the sun for over 20 years. That little Superman's son, Jonathan Kent Jr., also spent his childhood basking in the sun, Baishi, who entered the industry later in life. Can't compare to the amount of time they spend sunbathing. It's normal that it can't fly. Before he could actually learn to fly, Shiraishi could only rely on the bamboo dragonfly. Besides, bamboo dragonflies aren't really that bad. This is one of the most classic gadgets in Doryan. In his past life, Baishi longed to own a bamboo dragonfly. Now that I'm using it, the feeling is different below. Doryan and Nobita, who had just put on the bamboo copter and started flying, watched in amazement as Shiraishi flew through the air with ease. Brother Shiraishi is really amazing. He can fly so freely on his first time using the bamboo copter. Nabita, you first used the bamboo copter. You almost fell to your death, didn't you? Doryan glanced at Nobita. What's Doryan? It can't be as bad as you say. But cousin Shiraishi is really amazing. He truly lives up to his name. Nobita looked at Shiraishi with admiration and said, I want to become as outstanding as my cousin Shiraishi in the future. Yes, Nobita, I believe you can do it. Doryan doesn't mind praising Nobita a lot. But deep down, I couldn't help thinking that it was difficult. Or perhaps impossible. At least verbal support is necessary. Alright, let's go, Doryan, do it your way. Shiraishi enjoyed the thrill of flying for a while. It flew to Doryan and Nobita's side. He wouldn't forget his duties because of having fun. Yes, cousin Shiraishi, Nobita, come with me. Doryan led the way in together with Shiraishi and Nobita. They flew to the open ground, then. He took out something that looked like a carpet from his four-dimensional treasure bag and spread it out on the ground. Ta-da, the activity fishing pond. Doryan introduced it with great fanfare. What kind of gadget is this, Doryan? Nobita asked curiously. You'll see in a minute. Doryan smiled mysteriously, then began adjusting the latitude and longitude using the button next to the activity fishing pond. Soon, the central pool of the fishing pond was connected directly to the sea. Wow, it's turned into the ocean. Nobita couldn't help but exclaim, are there fish in here? You'll know once you take a look. Without hesitation, Shiraishi jumped in. Wow. Cousin Shiraishi, this is the ocean. This action startled Doryan and Nobita, who exclaimed in alarm, seeing that Shiraishi had stopped making any move. Without hesitation, the two wanted to jump in and save the person. Don't worry, I'm fine. The white stone suddenly emerged from the water, startling Doryan and Nobita, who almost tripped and fell. He was holding a fish in his right hand. A bright smile on his face, Dukshin. Do you think there are any fish? As soon as he finished speaking, several fish jumped out from beside him, splashing water directly onto Nobita, crackling sounds. The fish in Shiraishi's hand thrashed about, arcing through the air with a gasp from Dukshin. The fish crashed into his arms, causing him to stumble and fall to the ground. Ha 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 ha. Doryan couldn't help but burst into laughter. Watching anime is definitely not as good as experiencing it in the real world. She sighed inwardly, recalling how he had just jumped into the sea and swam to the surface. Sure enough, there was a vast ocean. The impact of those props was just so exciting. Alright, cousin Shiraishi, come up here quickly. It's too dangerous in the sea. What if there's a big shark? Nobita released the fish back into the sea, and then he and Doryan pulled Shiraishi ashore. Don't worry, I haven't seen any sharks yet. That's what they say. But Shiraishi always felt like he'd forgotten something about it. Shark, great white shark. I didn't see it just now, so why do I feel so strange? The more I think about it, the stranger it seems. But that's how people are. The more they try to recall a memory they can't remember, the less they can remember it, forget it, never mind. Maybe at some point in the future, I'll just remember it naturally. Cousin Shiraishi, you're all wet. What are you going to do? Go home and change. Nobita asked with some concern, what if you catch a cold? Catching a cold in the summer is really uncomfortable. It's okay, we still have Doryan. Shiraishi casually hugged Doryan's big head. Doryan chuckled and took out a gadget from his four-dimensional magic pocket to dry Shiraishi's clothes. Doryan, you're the best, all right. We've had our fun and jokes. Now let's get ready for tonight's diving. Good. Under the influence of this joyful atmosphere, Shiraishi seemed to have rediscovered his childlike wonder. And together with Nobita's, they raised their fists and jumped up next. Doryan took out two gadgets from his four-dimensional magic pocket. I love fish food the most. This is the fish's favorite fish food. Doryan took out 3 bottles of fish food. 1 bottle each for Doryan, Shiraishi, and Nobita. Since it's a game, everyone should feel involved. Next, the 3 of them used bamboo dragonflies to place the fish food in many places as long as we have this fish food. The fish will definitely come. Place the last fish food on the tree. The tree is already laden with fish food. Doryan glanced at it and nodded with great satisfaction. But Doryan, how are fish supposed to get here? There's no water here. Nobita landed on the ground and scratched his head in confusion. Of course I've considered that too, so next. It's time to create imaginary seawater along with gases. Ta-da! Doryan then took out a gas canister from his pocket, somewhat like a small gas cylinder, and explained to Nabita and Shiraishi. As long as we drop the canister containing the virtual seawater and gas down there, and then open the valve, the fish that have come into contact with the gas can survive in the virtual seawater. Baishi nodded and said then, by adding this fish food to attract the fish, we can get them all to swim around here, right? It has to be said, these fish feeds are definitely something special. The only open area accessible to the fishing pond is already teeming with fish. If virtual seawater were stored up, along with the gas contained within it, there will definitely be more fish in the neighborhood than in an aquarium. Right as Doryan spoke, he directly opened the valve of the virtual seawater and gas, and then threw it into the active fishing pond. All right. Now we just need to wait for the virtual seawater to slowly accumulate. Doryan dusted off his hands and put them on his hips. Just then Giant Suno Shizuka and their group suddenly emerged from around the corner of the open space. Hey, cousin Shiraishi, Doryan, what are you doing here too? Fat Tiger looked at Shiraishi in surprise. Shizuka was also a little surprised, but she quickly smiled and said, that's perfect. Cousin Shiraishi, Doryan, let's go to Suno's house together. Didn't you just go to Zairofu's house? Nobita still seemed somewhat dissatisfied, hee. I just thought about it and realized it wouldn't be good to leave you out. So I gave Zairofu a good scolding and decided to turn around and call you. Giant chuckled, we went to your house just now. But your aunt said you weren't home, so we left. We didn't expect you to still be in the open space, Nobita. What? Suno stepped out from behind Giant, inwardly criticizing Giant. It was clearly Giant who came up with the idea together with him. After all, Nobita has a cousin named Shiraishi. If they tell Shiraishi about what happened today, will they both get a lecture from him again? The more I thought about it, the more panicked I became. So I quickly wanted to go back and make amends. Nobita, I'm sorry about earlier, I'd like to invite you, cousin Shiraishi, and Doryan to my house to see photos and videos. Suno scratched his head, feeling rather ashamed that he had to turn around and apologize to Nobita. But with Shiraishi right there, he could only remain innocent. Shiraishi immediately saw through Giant and Suno's thoughts and couldn't help but roll his eyes inwardly. He couldn't be bothered to lecture Giant and Suno over something like this. As everyone knows, these two never learn from their mistakes, moreover. That's just how he interacts with Nobita. So he can't interfere. Then forget it, I'm not interested in that, Dokshung. However, was still resentful about their earlier behavior. So he crossed his arms and tilted his head to one side. They looked like they couldn't even be bothered to glance at Giant and Suno. Giant and Suno quickly ran to Nobita's side and began their obsessive fawning. Shiraishi, Doryan, and Shizuka couldn't help but chuckle at the sight. Nobita felt like he had found a powerful backer at this moment. In addition, everything has already been arranged. I'm just waiting to go diving myself. Who would be interested in Suno's videos and photos? Oh wells, never mind. Shiraishi watched helplessly as Giant and Suno licked Nobita until he was red and tingled, and couldn't help but step in as a peacemaker. Giant and Suno admitted their mistake, so Nobita, you can do that too. Even Shiraishi couldn't bear to look. They were afraid that Nobita would get beaten to death by Giant one day. This kid sometimes just doesn't know how to be flexible and is prone to showing off. Social etiquette and worldly wisdom are indeed too difficult for children to understand. Alright, since cousin Shiraishi has spoken up, I'll forgive you both. Nobita only reluctantly forgave Giant and Suno after Shiraishi intervened. Giant and Suno breathed a sigh of relief and said, alright. Come with us, Nobita, Doryan. The snack at my house this afternoon is dorayaki. And I can have as many as I want, really. Doryan wasn't originally interested in this. Let Nobita go because he also knew Sunio's personality. If we go to Zairofu's house, it's definitely going to be an endless stream of Zairofu bragging. The kind of thing that's so annoying it's making my ears callous. However, upon hearing the name dorayaki, Doryan, a seasoned foodie who loves dorayaki the most, couldn't resist any longer. Suddenly my eyes lit up, and saliva involuntarily dripped from the corner of my mouth. He of course, Zairofu proudly patted his chest. We have no choice but to go now. Doryan immediately pulled out a bamboo copter, attached it to everyone in an instant, and pushed Sunio towards his house. Hey Doryan, are you in such a hurry? In fact, Shiraishi didn't really want to go either. But since Doryan is already like this, let him go. He had indeed never been to Zairofu's house to play. And so the group quickly flew to Zairofu's doorstep. Sunio's house is indeed much more luxurious than Nobita's. In terms of land area alone, it is at least 3 times the size of Nobita's house. There is also a small pond, artificial hills and water behind it. It's practically a small villa. Mom, I'm home. Zairofu rang the doorbell and then called out from the doorway. Sunio's mother came out to open the door. Sunio's mother looks almost exactly like him. They both have pointed mouths and look like Kappa, a mythical creature. No one would doubt whether these two are related by blood if they went out together. You could tell just by looking at their DNA. Hey Sunio, are you coming over to play with your friends today? At first glance, all of Sunio's mother's faces were familiar, except for Shiraishi, whom she didn't recognize. Is this a new friend? Sunio quickly introduced to his mother. Momthis is Nobita's cousin Nobi Shiraishi. He'll be living at Nobita's house from now on. And we'll all play together often. Oh, I see. Zairofu's mother suddenly realized and then smiled and said, Welcome to my house. Shiraishi bowed slightly in a very polite manner. Sunio's mother. Please take care of me in the future. I'm sorry to bother you today. I've only heard of you before. But I didn't expect Sunio's mother to be so beautiful. Hahaha, this kid really knows how to compliment people. Zairofu's mother covered her mouth in embarrassment. Women of all ages love to be complimented on their beauty. She was overjoyed by the praise and became much quicker in entertaining Shiraishi and the others, calling them in one by one. Excuse me. Everyone entered together. Zairofu's mom was also very eager to get the snacks. Shiraishi watched as Sunio's mother left. He didn't seem to have any particular feelings about praising others. Everyone likes to hear nice things. And Shiraishi is no exception. He likes it. And others like it too. It's just a matter of saying a few words. And he can be kind to others, why not? When everyone arrived at the living rooms, Zairofu first took out his photo album for everyone to see. Zairofu's family is quite well off. He was able to go scuba diving when he was in elementary school and had access to so many exciting things in the world. If it were the old Shiraishi, he would definitely be incredibly envious. At such a young age, he's already standing at the finish line that many people reach. Wow, that fish is so cool. Sunio, you're amazing. You actually managed to climb on the fish's back. What do you mean by lying on the fish's back? That's clearly riding a fish, okay, Nobita. If you can't speak properly, you don't have to. Ahahaha, sorry, Sunio. HMPH, I also have videos, want to see them. Videos are much more intuitive than photos. I'll definitely look. Nobita was initially quite dismissive, but now he's completely engrossed and incredibly excited. Jian wasn't much different, while Shizuka looked refined but would occasionally gasp in surprise. The brilliance and beauty of the underwater world are so captivating that they have a profound impact not only on children of this age, but also on adults. Certainly except for Doryan. After the snacks were served, Doryan noticed that no one was eating them. So he took them all for himself. He was happily eating his snacks alone in a corner. One dorayaki at a time. Do you really want to go to a place like this, Shizuka? Shiraishi sat on the sofa, arms crossed. Looking at the scene with a different posture, yes. Shizuka nodded without hesitation and said, "The underwater world is really beautiful. I'm so envious of Sunio. Don't you want to experience it, Shiraishi-naya?" Haha, of course I would think so, Shiraishi stretched, shifted his posture, and put his hands behind his head. If you have the chance, I can take you to experience it once, really. Shizuka asked in surprise. Of course it's true, I would never lie. Shiraishi held up a finger and shook it. If there's a chance in the future, I'll take everyone to play together, okay? Then on behalf of Nobita and the others, I'll thank cousin Shiraishi in advance. Shizuka smiled and nodded. Shiraishi chuckled to himself, kids will always be kids. From someone else's perspective. This is just one kid bragging to another kid. But Shizuka still believed it. Shizuka, can we sneak out tonight? I can show you around first, after thinking it over. Shiraishi decided not to betray Shizuka's trust.